The cafeteria remained silent for 3 full seconds. Then every conversation returned at once, not gradually. All at once. Why's a standard class student on that list? Heart resonance is the SSS-ranked talent from Awakening Day. Right? I thought nobody knew what it did. Then why is he being evaluated beside Zhao Kai, Tang Ruo and Gu Qingshui are seniors? This makes no sense. Hundreds of voices collided beneath the high silver ceiling. Some students stared openly. Others pretended not to stare while turning their entire bodies toward Xiao Fan's table. A few elite students exchanged expressions that were less curious and more offended. As though the academy had placed a question mark beside a ranking system they had trusted their entire lives. Xiao Fan ignored most of them. He was still looking at the final line that had vanished from his vision. Observation interference increasing. The wording mattered. Not observation pressure. Not observation detected. Interference. That suggested the act of being observed was not merely social or institutional. It was affecting heart resonance itself. The sealed envelope inside his bag felt heavier. Lin Xiaoyu leaned closer. Are you all right, physically? Yes. Shang Hao lowered his voice. That answer usually means something is wrong, in a way normal people would describe first. Xiao Fan looked at him. The system displayed another message. The table quieted immediately. Chen Lai set down his chopsticks. Luo Yun's eyes sharpened. Lin Xiaoyu asked, "What did it say?" Observation interference increasing. Zhang Hao slowly turned toward the ceiling. Several observation drones floated above the cafeteria, their lenses moving across the crowd. I suddenly dislike how many things are looking at us. Luo Yun did not look up. Looking directly at them will not help. Zhang Hao lowered his head again. I knew that. You did not. You did not. Chen Lai glanced toward the public screen. The mandatory list had already disappeared, replaced by the Academy crest and a countdown. First-year resource competition briefing. 1 hour, 42 minutes. We should assume the special category is connected to the observation message, Chen Lai said. Likely. Xiao Fan replied. Lin Xiaoyu frowned. Can they force you to use a talent nobody understands? They can require participation. Whether they can require activation depends on the written rules. Zhang Hao pointed at him with his spoon. This is why we need you. The rest of us see a terrifying public announcement. You see a contract dispute. Rules determine risk. That was not disagreement. Across the cafeteria, Tang Ruo had stopped near the exit. She turned back once. Her expression was no longer playful. The moment she met Xiao Fan's eyes, she gave a small gesture toward the notice still resting on their table. Read everything. Then, she continued walking. Xiao Fan understood. He unfolded the resource competition notice again. This time, he did not focus on the large printed categories. He read the margins: participation, eligibility, scoring authority, safety restrictions, challenge conditions, appeal procedure, class contribution rules. His eyes stopped near the bottom. There. The others leaned closer. A smaller line had been printed beneath the team adaptation category. Individual special evaluations may modify class contribution scores only when the evaluated student remains assigned to an academy-recognized team. Luo Yun read it twice. They cannot isolate you completely. Not if they want the result to affect the class competition, Xiao Fan said. Chen Lai nodded slowly. So whatever the unclassified test is, you still need a team. Or they need to observe how the talent behaves around one. The table became quieter. Lin Xiaoyu's fingers tightened slightly against the edge of the notice. Xiao Fan noticed. That does not confirm danger. It also does not confirm safety. Correct. She gave him a look. You could pretend to reassure me for at least 10 seconds. Xiao Fan considered it. The academy has multiple barrier systems. Medical teams, instructors, and formal safety limits. The probability of intentional serious harm is low. That was very Xiao Fan reassurance. Was it ineffective? Her expression softened despite herself. Not completely. Zhang Hao placed both hands on the table. Good. Then the plan is simple. Everyone looked at him. We attend the briefing, discover the academy has created an unfair and complicated competition. Complain loudly. Then win anyway. Chen Lai nodded once. The first 3 parts sound realistic. Luo Yun added. The final part requires work. Details. The bell above the cafeteria doors chimed. Lunch period was ending. Students began gathering trays and bags. But the atmosphere had changed. The resource competition was no longer an announcement for tomorrow. It had become the only thing anyone wanted to discuss today. As Xiao Fan stood, a boy from a nearby elite table spoke just loudly enough to be heard. Standard Class 7 should be grateful they are even allowed to compete. The comment was not directed at anyone officially. That made it easier to deny. A second voice answered. They will earn participation points and go home. The real resources are decided by the elite classes. Several students laughed. Zhang Hao stopped moving. Chen Lai's shoulders shifted. Lin Xiaoyu turned toward the voices. Xiao Fan picked up his bag. Do not respond. Zhang Hao looked offended. I had a very educational response prepared. It would not improve our score. It would improve my mood. Temporarily, Luo Yun walked past him. Save the mood improvement. For the competition. Zhang Hao stared after him. Why is everyone becoming reasonable at my expense? The five of them left the cafeteria together. Behind them, the elite students continued laughing. Ahead of them, the countdown kept falling. 1 hour 36 minutes. The afternoon classes passed slowly, not because the lessons were unimportant, because every student was waiting for the briefing. Guardian Class 7 spent the first hour learning shield angle fundamentals. Wei Rong demonstrated how a 5-degree mistake could redirect force into the wrist instead of the shoulder. Then he made every student hold a defensive stance while he walked down the line and struck their shields with a padded training hammer. The broad-shouldered boy from registration was knocked backward 3 steps. Another student nearly dropped his shield. Chen Lai moved half a step. Xiao Fan moved 2. Wei Rong looked at him. Why? My stance was too narrow. And I anticipated downward force. You struck from the right. Wei Rong nodded. Good. Knowing why you failed is useful. He raised the hammer again. It is not the same as not failing. The second strike came faster. Xiao Fan widened his stance, shifted his shoulder, and absorbed the impact without losing position. Pain traveled from his palm to his elbow. Manageable. Wei Rong moved on. Near the end of class, the countdown appeared on every classroom board. 10 minutes. The Guardian students immediately became restless. Wei Rong returned the training hammer to the rack. The resource competition briefing begins in the central ruin arena. A student raised his hand. Instructor, will Standard Class 7 really compete against elite classes? Yes. Do we have a chance? Wei Rong looked across the room. No one moved. No one moved. No one breathed loudly. In direct combat? He answered without hesitation. Not much of one. Several faces fell. Wei Rong continued. If that answer discourages you, remember it. He pointed toward the shields stacked against the wall. A guardian who lies about the strength of an enemy kills teammates. The disappointment in the room became something sharper. Attention. The elite classes have better facilities, stronger average talents, and more training resources. That is not an insult. It is the current situation. His gaze moved from student to student. Your task is not to pretend the difference does not exist. Your task is to identify where it matters, where it does not, and what you can do before the difference becomes fatal. Xiao Fan listened carefully. Wei Rong's words matched the competition structure. Combat strength favored elites. Practical survival reduced some of that advantage. Team adaptation might reduce even more. Wei Rong opened the classroom door. Go learn the rules. He paused. Then stop asking whether you have a chance and determine what kind of chance you can create. The students filed out with noticeably straighter backs. The central ruin arena occupied the heart of Azure Third Academy. Unlike the open training fields, it had been built downward into the earth. White stone seating descended in broad circular tiers around an artificial ruin zone filled with broken walls, collapsed towers, narrow bridges, supply platforms, and shifting barrier lanes. Blue runes glowed beneath every surface. Observation drones hovered above the arena in orderly rings. The eastern entrance filled with elite students in silver-trimmed uniforms. The western entrance filled with standard classes. The separation was not officially enforced. It did not need to be. Habit did the work. Xiao Fan entered with Guardian Class 7. He immediately noticed the difference in seating. The eastern side had cushioned benches, private status screens, and direct sightlines toward the central platform. The western side had simple stone seats and shared display boards. Zhang Hao appeared from the combat class section and followed Xiao Fan's gaze. You are calculating the furniture budget again. No, Zhang Hao looked surprised. Really? I am calculating message design. Chen Lai arrived beside them. What? Message? Xiao Fan nodded toward the two sides. The academy does not need to say elite students receive priority. The architecture says it every day. Luo Yun joined them without sound. That was probably intentional. Lin Xiaoyu came down the eastern stairs with several support students. She ignored the open seats near her class and crossed to the western section. A few elite students noticed. One girl beside her hesitated, then followed. Lin Xiaoyu sat beside Xiao Fan. The sight line is worse here. Yes, the company is better. Zhang Hao pressed one hand to his heart. Finally. Someone recognizes our value. Chen Lai looked at him. She was speaking to Xiao Fan. Group value. No. The arena lights dimmed. Conversations faded. A circular platform rose from the center of the ruin field. Principal Han stood at its center. Li Zentian waited several steps behind him, arms folded. Wei Rong and other instructors occupied the lower observation level. Tang Ruo stood near the western edge of the platform. Gu Qingshui stood opposite her. She wore the same deep academy colors as Tang Ruo, but where Tang Ruo drew attention through warmth and movement, Gu Qingshui seemed to reduce the space around her into stillness. Her long dark hair was tied simply behind her. Her expression revealed nothing. A faint layer of frost-white mana rested over the metal railing beneath her hand. At the eastern front row, Zhao Kai sat alone. Blue-white sparks moved once across his fingers before disappearing. He looked toward the arena, not the crowd. Principal Han raised one hand. Every display board illuminated. The first-year resource competition begins tomorrow morning. 4 categories appeared above the central platform. Combat strength. Combat strength. Practical survival. Team adaptation. Unclassified talent application. The first 3 glowed blue. The 4th glowed silver. Azure Third Academy does not distribute resources equally, Principal Han said. Several standard students shifted uncomfortably. He did not soften the statement. It distributes them according to demonstrated need, projected development, contribution, and performance. A boy behind Xiao Fan muttered, projected development means talent rank. The student beside him answered, usually, Principal Han continued. Initial class placement determines baseline access. It does not determine final access. The display changed. A long list of rewards appeared. Training arena priority, mana chamber hours, recovery pod access, equipment voucher upgrades, instructor consultation periods, simulation room reservations, enhanced cafeteria nutrition credits, dungeon theory archive permissions. The reactions across the arena changed with every line. Combat students focused on training arenas. Elemental students watched the mana chamber hours. Guardians stared at recovery access and equipment vouchers. Scouts leaned forward at archive permissions. Zhang Hao whispered. Enhanced cafeteria nutrition credits. Chen Lai did not look at him. Control yourself. I am thinking about team welfare. You are thinking about meat. Meat improves morale. Luo Yun nodded once. Unfortunately true. Principal Han waited until the whispers faded. Each category awards class points and individual merit. A scoring diagram appeared. Combat strength carried the highest possible individual score. Practical survival carried the highest consistency score. Team adaptation carried the highest class contribution multiplier. The western seats became quieter. Xiao Fan leaned forward. That was the opening. Not victory. An opening. Combat strength will measure direct application, control, endurance, and response under regulated pressure, Principal Han said. Images of shielded arenas appeared. Practical survival will measure preparation, environmental judgment, resource management, threat recognition, and objective completion. The images shifted to artificial forests, ruined corridors, and marked supply zones. Team adaptation will measure role clarity, communication, recovery from failure, protection of weaker members, and performance under changing conditions. The final phrase spread across every display. Performance under changing conditions. Xiao Fan felt the group beside him become more attentive. Zhang Hao stopped joking. Chen Lai folded his arms. Luo Yun's eyes tracked the scoring details. Lin Xiaoyu read every line twice. Principal Han turned toward the silver category. Unclassified talent application is not a general event. The names appeared again. Zhao Kai, Gu Qingshui, Tang Ruo, Xiao Fan. This time, the crowd reacted less loudly. The silence carried more pressure than the earlier whispers. Selected participants possess talents, applications, or developmental states requiring specialized observation. Zhang Hao's expression darkened. They just called Brother Fan a developmental state. Xiao Fan replied quietly, technically. Everyone is a developmental state. That does not improve it, Principal Han continued. The exact test format will not be announced in advance. This prevents rehearsed demonstrations and protects restricted evaluation standards. Xiao Fan's attention sharpened. No, advanced format, restricted standards, mandatory participation. A poor combination. All special evaluations will occur under senior instructor supervision and active barrier protection. No participant will be required to disclose restricted system information publicly. That sentence was meant for him. He was certain of it. Across the platform, Li Zentian's gaze rested on the standard class section. Not on all of it, on Xiao Fan. Principal Han raised his hand again. The scoring diagram expanded. Class rankings will be determined by the combined performance of registered representatives. A class that fails one category may recover through another. A class that relies on one exceptional student may still lose through poor adaptation. The elite seat stirred. Zhao Kai finally lifted his gaze. His eyes moved toward the team adaptation multiplier. Then, slowly, toward Xiao Fan. The distance between them was too great for conversation. The meaning did not require one. He had noticed the same opening. Principal Han's voice remained calm. There are 3 restrictions. The first appeared. No external equipment beyond Academy-approved issue. The second. No deliberate injury, sabotage, or interference outside active events. The third. No team may alter registered membership after competition commencement, except for medical withdrawal. Chen Lai spoke quietly. Teams locked tomorrow morning. Yes, Xiao Fan said. Luo Yun looked toward the registration indicator. 5 members maximum. Lin Xiaoyu's expression changed. Elite Class 2 had its own team requirements. Chang Hao belonged to Elite Class 3. Luo Yun and Lin Xiaoyu belonged to Elite Class 2. Chen Lai and Xiao Fan were not all assigned to the same academic group. The 5 friends could not simply register as one class team. That was the first barrier. The competition rewarded teamwork. The academy structure had already divided them. A ripple of conversation spread through the seats as other students reached the same conclusion. Principal Han allowed it for several seconds. Then the displays changed one final time. Cross-class advisory cooperation is permitted before event commencement. Lin Xiaoyu exhaled softly. But active participation remains class-registered, Xiao Fan said. Yes, she looked toward him. We can still prepare together. Yes, then we will. There was no hesitation in her voice. The pink gold panel did not appear. Xiao Fan was beginning to understand that silence did not mean absence. Sometimes it meant the moment belonged to them rather than the system. Principal Han concluded the formal rules. Registration closes at sunset. Competition order will be released at dawn. Your current ranking determines where you begin. He looked across both halves of the arena. What you do next determines whether you remain there. The displays went dark. The briefing ended. The arena did not empty. It erupted. Elite classes gathered around private screens, immediately comparing optimal rosters. Standard classes argued over who should represent them. Instructors moved through the aisles, preventing challenges from turning into fights. Zhang Hao stood first. I have discovered a problem. Chen Lei looked at him. Only one. We are separated by class. We knew that. I disliked it before. I dislike it professionally now. Luo Yun turned toward the standard class registration board. Xiao Fan and Chen Lei can register for standard class 7. I am in Elite 3, Zhang Hao said. Lin Xiaoyu and I are Elite 2. Lin Xiaoyu looked toward Tang Ruo, who was speaking with several instructors near the platform. The advisory rule is there for a reason. Xiao Fan nodded. We cannot fight as one team, but we can share information before the events. Zhang Hao crossed his arms. That sounds less satisfying. It is still useful. I know. That is why it is annoying. Chen Lei glanced toward the Western registration line. Standard Class 7 students had gathered around Wai Rong. Their expressions were not hopeful. Some looked intimidated. Others looked embarrassed before the competition had even begun. One student was already arguing that the class should send only its strongest representatives and accept the likely loss. Another suggested saving energy for monthly rankings instead. Wei Rong listened without interrupting. He did not appear pleased. Xiao Fan watched the group. This was not only a competition problem, it was a morale problem. If Standard Class 7 entered believing the score had already been decided, team adaptation would collapse before the first event began. I need to speak with my class, Xiao Fan said. Lin Xiaoyu nodded. We'll wait. You should register with your own classes first. We have time. Registration closes at sunset. Zhang Hao waved a hand. Brother Fan, stop trying to dismiss your support team. We are very difficult to remove. Luo Yun added. He is correct. Chen Lai looked toward Class 7. Go. Xiao Fan approached the group. The argument had become louder. We cannot beat elite classes. Then why waste our best students? Because the rewards matter. Rewards we will not win. Team adaptation has a multiplier. A multiplier on a low score is still low. Theo, broad-shouldered guardian from registration, noticed Xiao Fan first. You're here. Several students turned. Some expressions brightened. Others became more guarded. His name had appeared beside elite seniors and Zhao Kai. That did not make him trusted. It made him unusual. Wei Rong remained silent. Xiao Fan looked at the class registration screen. 5 representative slots. 28 candidates, Average combat evaluation significantly below elite classes. Equipment quality basic, training access limited. No obvious advantage, he spoke plainly. We will probably lose the combat strength category. The students stared. One boy laughed bitterly. Good speech. It is not a speech. Xiao Fan pointed toward the scoring board. Combat strength has the highest individual score. Team adaptation has the highest class multiplier. Practical survival rewards consistency rather than peak output. The bitter laughter stopped. Elite classes are more likely to win direct combat. Xiao Fan continued. That does not mean they are guaranteed to make fewer mistakes in unknown terrain. It does not mean their strongest students communicate well. It does not mean they protect weaker members efficiently. A girl holding a short spear frowned. You think they will underestimate those categories? Some will. And if they do not, then we still perform as well as possible. The broad-shouldered boy scratched his head. That sounds less inspiring than I expected. False confidence would be less useful. A few students smiled despite themselves. Xiao Fan looked around the group. We do not need to prove Standard Class 7 is secretly stronger than Elite Class 1. It is not. That hurt. He could see it. But no one looked away. We need to prove our placement does not determine whether we can think, prepare, cooperate, and protect one another. The arena noise continued around them. Elite students negotiated teams beneath bright private screens. Standard students argued over limited opportunities. Observation drones watched everything. Xiao Fan continued. If we enter only to avoid embarrassment, we will fail before scoring begins. If we enter to understand the rules, assign roles honestly, and recover when something goes wrong, then the categories are not equal. He pointed toward team adaptation. That one can be influenced. Then toward practical survival. That one can be prepared for. Finally toward combat strength. And even there, losing by less than expected still matters. Silence held the group together for several seconds. The short spear girl looked at the registration board again. So we do not need the 5 strongest students. Not necessarily. We need 5 roles. Yes, another student spoke. And reserves who prepare with them. Yes, the broad-shouldered guardian grinned. Now it sounds like a speech. Xiao Fan considered that. Unintentional. Laughter moved through the group. Not much. Enough. Vairong finally stepped forward. You heard him. His voice cut through the remaining uncertainty. Anyone who wants an easy excuse may leave. No one moved. Anyone who wants an easy victory may also leave. Still, no one moved. Vairong nodded toward the registration board. Then choose based on function, not pride. The class gathered closer. Questions replaced complaints. Who had the best endurance? Who remembered terrain details? Who could maintain communication under pressure? Who protected instead of chasing points? Who recovered quickly after failure? Xiao Fan stood among them, listening. He did not command the group. Not yet. But when someone proposed 3 heavy defenders with no mobility, he explained the weakness. When another proposed selecting only the highest physical scores, he pointed toward the practical survival criteria. When 2 students argued over the final slot, he asked which one could follow a changing plan without taking it personally. That ended the argument for an entirely different reason. By the time the sun lowered beyond the transparent academy dome, Standard Class 7 had not solved the competition. They had done something more important. They had stopped treating defeat as an identity. The 5 representative slots remained under discussion. The tactical questions had only begun. The unclassified evaluation remained completely unknown. Elite Class 1 was still stronger. Zhao Kai was still far beyond Xiao Fan in direct power. None of that had changed. But the class registration board no longer looked like a record of who would lose. It looked like a problem that could be studied. As the students dispersed to gather training records and submit role preferences, Lin Xiaoyu approached from behind. Zhang Hao, Chen Lai, and Luo Yun followed her. You gave a speech, she said. Apparently, a good one. It contained no emotional appeal. Zhang Hao raised a hand. Incorrect. I felt at least 3 emotions, Chen Lai asked. Were any of them useful? One was hunger. That was not caused by the speech. You cannot prove that. Luo Yun looked toward the registration board. Class 7 changed quickly. They already wanted a reason to try, Xiao Fan said. They only wanted a reason to try, Xiao Fan said. Lacked a structure that made trying rational. Lin Xiaoyu smiled. You gave them one. Xiao Fan looked across the arena. Elite teams were still registering. Zhao Kai stood at the eastern board while students gathered around him. He did not appear uncertain. He did not need to. His strength was obvious. Xiao Fan's was not. Perhaps that difference would remain for a long time. Zhao Kai turned slightly. Across the distance, his gaze met Xiao Fan's. Then he looked toward the Standard Class 7 board. Toward the students who were no longer leaving with lowered heads. A faint blue spark moved across his shoulder. He gave a small nod. Not approval, not friendship. Recognition that something had changed. Xiao Fan returned the nod. The moment passed. Above the arena, an observation drone adjusted its angle. The pink-gold panel appeared at the edge of Xiao Fan's vision. Heart resonance. Environmental condition detected. Multiple sincere support signals present. No reward followed. No affection value changed. No new ability appeared. The panel faded. Xiao Fan watched the empty space where it had been. Multiple sincere support signals. Not one target. Not one relationship. Multiple. He did not take out his notebook. Not yet. Around him, Lin Xiaoyu was discussing healer support limits with Chen Lei. Luo Yun had already begun listing likely survival variables. Zhang Hao was trying to convince everyone that nutrition credits were a strategic objective. Standard Class 7 students moved between them carrying forms, shield records, and questions. The competition had not begun. No points had been awarded. No elite had been defeated. No mystery had been solved. Yet the stakes were finally clear. Resources determined training. Training shaped rankings. Rankings shaped opportunity. And opportunity shaped who would be ready when the danger beyond Azure City's walls became real. For the elite classes, the resource competition was a chance to secure what they already expect. For Standard Class 7, it was a chance to prove expectation was not destiny. Xiao Fan looked once more at the 4 categories glowing above the arena: combat strength, practical survival, team adaptation, unclassified talent application. 3 rules they could study. 1 mystery they could not. He adjusted the strap of his bag. We need a plan. Zhang Hao grinned. A real one this time. A detailed one. Chen Lei sighed. That means no sleep. Luo Yun answered calmly. It means less sleep. Lin Xiaoyu stepped beside Xiao Fan. Then we... Start now. The Academy sunset poured through the barrier dome, turning the white stone ruins gold. Across the arena, class boards continued filling with names. Above them, hidden systems continued recording everything. And for the first time, since his placement into Standard Class 7, Xiao Fan did not feel as though he had been placed beneath the elite classes. He felt as though he had been given a different problem to solve. The Academy sunset had nearly disappeared by the time Standard Class 7 claimed an empty lecture room in the Western District. Nearly. The last orange light still stretched across the windows, turning the old stone walls warm, while the Academy's blue runes brightened for evening operation. 30 students crowded around desks that had been pushed into a rough circle. Training records covered one table. Equipment lists covered another. A holographic copy of the resource competition rules floated above the instructor's platform. No one had gone home. That alone was progress. Zhang Hao stood in front of the blackboard with a piece of chalk. Across the top he had written 3 large words: win through friendship. Xiao Fan looked at the board. No. Zhang Hao lowered the chalk. You rejected it too quickly. It is not a plan. It is a philosophy. It is also too large. We need the board. Chen Lei walked past and erased the final word with his sleeve. Zhang Hao stared at the remaining phrase. Win through. Luo Yun quietly erased the rest. Efficient, he said. Lin Xiaoyu placed a stack of copied competition rules on the nearest desk. Perhaps Xiao Fan should write. Zhang Hao held the chalk against his chest. I have been removed from leadership. You were never appointed, Chen Lei said. That makes this worse. A few Class 7 students laughed. The laughter came easier than it had in the arena. Xiao Fan took the chalk. He drew 3 columns: combat strength, practical survival, team adaptation. Then he stepped back. We begin with what we cannot change tonight. A student near the window raised his hand. Our talents, our class placement. The answer produced several uncomfortable expressions. Xiao Fan continued before the mood could fall. We also cannot gain elite facilities, replace our equipment, or close the average combat gap before tomorrow morning. Zhang Hao leaned toward Lin Xiaoyu. He remains inspirational. He is establishing the problem, she whispered back. He is very committed to it. Xiao Fan ignored them. What can we change? The broad-shouldered guardian from registration answered first. Team selection. Yes. The short spear girl added, roles. Yes. Another student said, preparation. Communication, Luo Yun added. Recovery after mistakes. Lin Xiaoyu said. Xiao Fan wrote each answer beneath the final 2 columns. The board began changing. The competition no longer looked like 4 impossible categories. It looked like a collection of smaller decisions. Weirong stood near the back wall with his arms folded. He had entered 10 minutes earlier. He had not spoken once. His silence made every student aware that the discussion still belonged to them. Xiao Fan turned toward the class records. 5 active representatives. Reserves can assist with preparation but cannot enter after the roster locks unless the rules permit medical withdrawal. A thin boy with a hooked training blade raised his hand. So we choose one person for each role. Not exactly. Xiao Fan drew. 5 empty circles beneath team adaptation. Rigid teams fail when the situation changes. Each person needs a primary function, and at least one secondary function. The short spear girl frowned thoughtfully. For example, a guardian may provide defense as a primary function and route control as a secondary function. The secondary function. Broad-shouldered boy nodded. A scout can detect threats and manage communication, Luo Yun added, assuming they do not run ahead and become the threat. Several students looked toward one of the faster boys in the room. He slowly lowered his raised hand. Zhang Hao pointed at Luo Yun. That was unreasonably specific. It was accurate. Xiao Fan continued writing. Defense, mobility, observation, support, objective control. Those are functions, he said, not class names. A healer student from another standard section had joined Lin Xiaoyu near the door. She looked at the board. So a combat student can still provide support. Yes. Carry supplies. Protect communication. Mark safe routes. Stabilize a retreat. Chenlai tapped the table containing the equipment lists. And a guardian can help complete objectives instead of standing in one place. Yes. The broad-shouldered boy looked mildly offended. I can move. No one said you could not, Xiao Fan replied. You looked at me when he said it. I was checking whether you agreed. Zhang Hao nodded gravely. He analyzes people with eye contact. Lin Xiaoyu smiled. He is improving. He used to need a notebook. Xiao Fan paused. I still have the notebook, I know. The warmth in her answer drew several knowing looks from nearby students. Xiao Fan returned to the board before Zhang Hao could speak. That decision prevented nothing. Zhang Hao whispered loudly. Tactical retreat. Chen Lai placed a hand on his shoulder and moved him 2 steps backward. Successful. The room settled again. Xiao Fan opened the practical survival rules. Practical survival rewards consistency. That means mistakes matter more than impressive moments. The short spear girl crossed her arms. Elite students will know that too. Some will. Zhao Kai definitely will. Chen Lai said. Xiao Fan nodded. They could not build a strategy around elite students becoming foolish. That would be hope disguised as planning. We assume the strongest teams prepare correctly, he said. Our advantage cannot depend on their failure. The room quieted. That removed the easiest fantasy. It also made the remaining discussion more serious. Luo Yun unrolled a campus training map across the table. The briefing showed artificial forests, ruined corridors, supply zones, and changing barriers. He marked 4 terrain types with small black stones. Those images may not match tomorrow's exact course. But the evaluation factors remain the same. Preparation, Xiao Fan said. Environmental judgment. Resource management. Threat recognition. Objective completion. Lin Xiaoyu studied the map. Most teams will focus on reaching the objective. Quickly, yes, Luo Yun said. And if conditions change, she asked. Fast teams may outrun their information. Xiao Fan looked at the 5 empty circles on the board. There. Not an advantage yet. A possibility. If we cannot move fastest, he said. We make sure every movement produces information. Chen Lai understood first. Every member observes something different. Terrain stability, the short spear girl said. Threat signs, Luo Yun added. Resource use, Lin Xiaoyu said. Team condition, Chen Lai finished. Zhang Hao raised a hand. Enemy morale. Everyone looked at him. What? He asked. If they are exhausted, that matters. It does, Xiao Fan admitted. Zhang Hao straightened proudly. My first accepted contribution. You brought copies of the meal reward table, Chen Lai said. My first strategic contribution. Xiao Fan wrote a new phrase beneath practical survival. Information before speed. Information before speed. The words changed the atmosphere. Students leaned closer. Questions came faster. How often should they report? What if communication was restricted? What if the team separated? Who decided when to abandon an objective? What counted as a recoverable mistake? Xiao Fan answered some. Others he redirected to the group. A plan people did not understand would collapse the first time he was unable to speak. That mattered more than appearing clever. They developed 3 simple communication rules. Report changes, not everything. Confirm important instructions once. If communication failed, return to the last confirmed position, unless immediate danger made that impossible. Luo Yun approved the rules because they were concise. Chen Lei approved because they could be remembered under pressure. Zhang Hao approved because none contained more than 11 words. Lin Xiaoyu approved after rewriting the second rule, so it sounded less like an order and more like teamwork. Xiao Fan noticed the difference. He kept her version. The pink gold panel did not appear. He was glad. The moment did not need verification. The discussion moved to team adaptation. Xiao Fan circled the category. This is the narrowest path, because of the multiplier. The broad-shouldered boy asked. Because the scoring criteria include recovery from failure. Several students looked confused. Failure did not sound like a path to victory. Xiao Fan pointed toward the official wording. Most teams will plan to avoid mistakes. As they should, the short spear girl said. Yes. But no team can guarantee that. He drew a line through one of the 5 circles and then connected the remaining 4. If the plan depends on perfect execution, one mistake destroys it. Then he redrew the missing circle in a different position. If the team knows how to reorganize, the mistake becomes part of the evaluation. Lin Xiaoyu looked at him. So we practice losing formation. We practice rebuilding it. That distinction mattered. Chen Lai moved several shield markers around the map. If the front line falls back, observation shifts inward. Luo Yun moved a black stone to the outer route. If the scout is cut off, the nearest mobile member takes route confirmation. The short spear girl moved her marker beside the supply token. If support is pressured, objective control becomes defense. Zhang Hao placed a meal voucher on the map. If morale collapses, morale collapses. Emergency nutrition. Chen Lai removed it. We are not practicing that. You will regret rejecting logistics. The room broke into laughter again. Even Wei Rong's expression shifted slightly, not a smile. Close enough that several students noticed and became immediately more serious. Xiao Fan looked around the circle. Earlier, they had asked which 5 students were strongest. Now they were asking which combinations could recover. That was the change he needed. A faint pink gold light appeared at the edge of his vision. Heart resonance. Environmental condition stable. Sincere support signals aligned towards shared objective. No number followed. No reward. The panel remained for only a breath before fading. Xiao Fan kept his expression neutral. But the wording settled into place. Aligned towards shared objective. Heart resonance was not merely detecting that people supported him. It was detecting that their support pointed in the same direction. He did not know whether that mattered mechanically. He knew it mattered to the plan. Lin Xiaoyu noticed his brief pause. Another message? He nodded. Different? Slightly? Zhang Hao immediately leaned over the table. Good different or observation division different. Neither confirmed. That is the least comforting category. Xiao Fan looked at the students around them. It detected sincere support signals aligned toward a shared objective. Silence spread. Not fear. Surprise. The broad-shouldered guardian looked around the room. It means the class is affecting your talent? It means the talent detected the class. We do not know whether it can affect anything. The distinction prevented excitement from becoming assumption. Wei Rong finally spoke from the back. Then do not build your plan around it. Every head turned. His gaze settled on Xiao Fan. Unknown power is not a resource. Xiao Fan nodded. It is a variable. It is a risk until proven otherwise. Understood. Wei Rong stepped toward the table. But a team aligned toward one objective is useful without a system confirming it. He looked across Class 7. That part is real. No one joked. The words carried more weight because Wei Rong had waited so long to speak. The final roster was not decided that night. It did not need to be. Instead, the class arranged a short evaluation before dawn. Candidates would rotate through formation changes, route calls, supply handling, and controlled failure drills. The 5 representatives would be selected according to function, not pride. Not talent rank alone, not who shouted loudest. When the meeting finally ended, the academy corridors had gone quiet. Moonlight replaced sunset beyond the barrier dome. Students left in small groups carrying copied maps and roll sheets. The broad-shouldered guardian paused at the door. What do we call the strategy? Xiao Fan looked at the board. Information before speed. Roles before pride. Recovery before perfection. It does not need a name. Zhang Hao reacted as though personally wounded. Every strategy needs a name. No. Adaptive friendship formation. No. Underdog resonance assault. No. Operation enhanced cafeteria. Nutrition. Chen Lai pushed him into the corridor. We are leaving. Luo Yun followed. The third name was the worst. The third name had measurable rewards. Lin Xiaoyu remained beside Xiao Fan while he erased the board. Only the 3 category names remained. Combat strength, practical survival, team adaptation. She picked up a cloth and erased combat strength first. You really think this can work? Xiao Fan considered the question carefully. Work does not mean defeating every elite class. I know. It means earning enough points to change how the... It means earning a... Academy evaluates Class 7. I know. It means surviving mistakes better than teams that are stronger than us. She waited. Xiao Fan set the chalk down. Yes. Not certainly. Not easily. But honestly, yes. I think there is a path. Lin Xiaoyu smiled. Then that is enough for tonight. They left the lecture room together. Behind them the old board stood empty. Ahead, the western training fields glowed beneath blue runes as standard Class 7 students began testing formations under the moonlight. They were still weaker. Their equipment was still worse. The unknown evaluation still waited for Xiao Fan. But the competition was no longer a wall. It was terrain, and terrain could be studied. The western training fields were already awake before dawn. Blue runes traced the edges of the practice ground, illuminating shield marks, route flags, supply crates, and 30 students who had discovered that agreeing to train before sunrise was easier than standing upright during it. Zhang Hao sat on an overturned crate with a blanket around his shoulders. I support the strategy. Chen Lei tightened the strap on his shield. You are asleep. I support it unconsciously. Luo Yun handed him a wooden route marker. Then hold this. Zhang Hao accepted it without opening his eyes. The marker slowly tilted sideways. Lin Xiaoyu caught it before it fell. Very dependable. Thank you. That was not praise. I accept support in all forms. Xiao Fan stood near the center of the field with a roll sheet in one hand. Around him, the final candidates rotated through short drills. Formation change. Route call. Supply transfer. Controlled retreat. Communication failure. No drill lasted more than 3 minutes. That was intentional. Long exercises tested endurance. Short disruptions tested adaptation. Wai Rong watched from the edge of the field, saying nothing unless a mistake created genuine danger. The first formation collapsed in 40 seconds. The broad-shouldered Guardian held the front too aggressively, leaving the supply carrier exposed when the route changed. The second lasted longer. Then 2 students responded to the same threat and abandoned the left lane. The third reached the objective marker. They also left 1 teammate behind. Xiao Fan recorded the result. Zhang Hao finally opened one eye. That should reduce the score. It does. How much? We do not know. Then I object to invisible punishment. Luo Yun moved another route flag. You object to visible punishment too, correct? I am consistent. The short spear girl returned from the failed drill. Breathing hard, we reached the objective. You lost your rear guard, Xiao Fan said. She was delayed. You did not confirm why? The girl looked toward the teammate who had been left behind. A barrier wall had risen between them during the route change. The separated student had followed the communication rule and returned to the last confirmed position. The rest of the group had continued forward. The short spear girl's expression tightened. We assumed she would catch up. Assumption without confirmation. Yes. She did not argue. That mattered. Xiao Fan marked the error, then looked across the candidates. Again. Several students groaned. Wai Rong's voice came from the boundary. If you have enough breath to complain, the drill is too easy. The groaning stopped. The next rotation began. This time, Luo Yun stood beside the road controls. He could not participate in Standard Class 7's official roster, but cross-class advisory cooperation remained permitted until competition commencement. He used every second of it. Without warning, he shifted 2 flags and blocked the obvious path with a simulated hazard marker. The candidates hesitated. One looked toward Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan did not answer. A plan that required him to solve every problem was not a team plan. The thin boy, with the hooked training blade, pointed toward a narrow lane beside the equipment shed. Alternate route. Unconfirmed, the short spear girl said. Then confirm it. The broad-shouldered Guardian moved first, but not forward. He angled his shield toward the blocked route and protected the group while the hooked blade boy checked the side lane. Clear, the boy called. Confirm clear, the girl answered. The team moved. Not fast, not elegantly. Together. When Luo Yun raised a second obstruction behind them, the rear guard reported it immediately. No one turned back unnecessarily. No one repeated the entire situation. Only the change. Xiao Fan watched the formation adjust. Primary functions remained visible. Secondary functions appeared when pressure shifted. The broad-shouldered Guardian controlled space. The short spear girl coordinated movement. The hooked blade boy confirmed routes. Chen Lei stabilized the center. The final student handled supplies and team condition. It was not the strongest possible lineup. It was the first lineup that recovered without waiting for instructions. They reached the marker with 21 seconds remaining. Silence held for a moment. Then Zhang Hao stood so quickly the blanket fell from his shoulders. We have achieved friendship. No. Xiao Fan said. Victory? Also no. Progress? Xiao Fan looked at the 5 students catching their breath. Yes. That answer produced more smiles than either of Zhang Hao's suggestions. Wei Yirong stepped onto the field. The roster, the candidates straightened. No one spoke while he read the 5 names from the evaluation sheet. Xiao Fan, Chen Lei, the broad-shouldered guardian, the short spear girl, the thin boy with the hooked blade. 2 reserves were also selected. The students who had not made the active roster looked disappointed, but the disappointment did not become resentment. They had seen the process. They knew why each role existed. Wei Rong lowered the sheet. Selection is not praise. His gaze moved across the 5 representatives. It is responsibility. Then toward the rest of the class. Not being selected is not dismissal. He pointed toward the supply crates en route. Maps. The competition begins with 5 students. It is prepared by 30. The words settled across the cold morning field. Heart resonance did not appear. Xiao Fan was glad. Some truths did not need a panel. The academy bell rang once. Registration locked. Across Azure 3rd Academy, class boards flashed from blue to white. The first-year resource competition had begun. The practical survival course occupied the northern simulation grounds. Artificial terrain extended beneath a transparent barrier dome. Ruined corridors intersected with low forest sections. Broken platforms surrounded shallow water channels. Supply markers glowed at irregular distances. At the center of the field stood 3 objective towers. Each class team received the same instructions. Recover 2 marked supply cores. Identify 1 concealed environmental threat. Reach any objective tower with all active members. Time mattered. Resources mattered. Penalties mattered more. The audience platforms filled quickly. Elite classes occupied the eastern stands. Standard classes gathered on the west. This time, no one in Class 7 looked at the seats. They looked at the field. Lin Xiaoyu stood behind the advisory boundary with Zhang Hao and Luo Yun. She had joined her own class registration before dawn, but Elite Class 2's event order came later. For now, she watched Xiao Fan check the academy-issued pack. Water, binding cloth, signal tags, 2 barrier flares, 1 recovery tonic, nothing extra, nothing hidden. Tang Ruo walked along the inspection line with a tablet. When she reached Xiao Fan, she checked the pack seal. Still planning to defeat Terrain? Terrain is less offended by analysis. Usually, she glanced toward the 5 members of Standard Class 7. Their equipment was basic. Their formation was not. Tang Ruo's eyes lingered on the spacing between them. Interesting. That is not an evaluation. It can be. She sealed the inspection record and moved on. At the eastern lane, Zhao Kai's team stood beneath silver markers. No wasted movement, no visible uncertainty. Their equipment gleamed with Academy Standard Elite issue. Zhao Kai did not look toward Xiao Fan until the countdown reached 10 seconds. Then his gaze shifted once, not toward Xiao Fan's shield. Toward the formation. He was measuring the same thing. The starting barrier lowered. Teams entered through separate lanes. Standard Class 7 moved at a controlled pace. Immediately, 3 other teams passed them. Zhang Hao gripped the railing. We are losing. Luo Yun watched the field map. The event began 12 seconds ago. We have been losing for 12 seconds. Lin Xiaoyu pointed toward the first junction. Look. The fastest standard team entered the left corridor without checking the upper wall. A warning rune flashed. Loose stone collapsed across the route. No one was injured. Their path was blocked. Penalty lights appeared over their class marker. Zhang Hao became very still. I was testing your confidence. No, Luo Yun said. Inside the course, Xiao Fan heard the collapse. He did not turn toward it. Change. Impact left corridor, the hooked blade boy reported. Likely root obstruction. Confirmed once, the short spear girl answered. The team continued through the center lane. Every member observed a different layer. Xiao Fan watched terrain transitions and objective conditions. Chen Lai monitored formation integrity. The broad-shouldered guardian checked physical hazards and controlled narrow spaces. The hooked blade boy confirmed routes. The short spear girl tracked supplies, time, and team condition. Their first supply core appeared beneath a broken platform. Too obvious. The broad-shouldered guardian stepped toward it. "Wait," Xiaofan said. He crouched near the edge of the stone. No monster tracks, no pressure plates, no unstable runes. But the water beneath the platform moved against the direction of the channel. Environmental change. The others stopped. The hooked blade boy leaned closer without crossing the boundary. Current is wrong. Chen Lai looked toward the support beams. Hidden intake? Likely. The short spear girl scanned the wall. There, a narrow vent had been concealed beneath. Artificial moss. The supply core was not trapped. The route to it was. If someone stepped onto the lower platform, the vent would release a surge strong enough to knock them into the channel. Not dangerous, costly. Xiaofan took out a signal tag and attached it to the vent. Threat identified. A blue point indicator appeared above their lane. The audience reacted. Standard Class 7 had found the concealed environmental threat before securing either supply core. An instructor on the observation platform looked down at the scoring tablet. Another leaned closer. Tang Ruo smiled faintly. Li Zhenxian did not. His expression remained unreadable. The team adjusted. Chen Lai anchored a line. The hooked blade boy crossed from above instead of below. The broad-shouldered guardian redirected the water surge with his shield when the vent activated. The supply core came free. No penalty. One objective complete. They moved deeper into the ruins. Elite Class 1 had already recovered both cores. Their marker advanced toward the central tower with frightening speed. Xiang Hao saw it. "So much for information," Luo Yun replied without looking away. "Their information is also fast." That was the problem Xiaofan had anticipated. The elite teams were not foolish. Their strength allowed them to gather information without sacrificing speed. Standard Class 7 could not win by waiting for arrogance. They had to execute better than their own limits. The second core lay beyond a shifting barrier corridor. Blue walls rose and fell in changing patterns. 3 teams rushed toward openings as soon as they appeared. 1 made it through. 2 were divided. Xiaofan's group stopped at the entrance. The short spear girl counted the intervals. 4 seconds. 6, 4, 8. "Not repeating," Chen Lai said. "Trigger-based," Xiaofan replied. The hooked blade boy watched the floor. Pressure tiles. Every movement altered the next barrier cycle. The corridor was not a timing test. It was a team test disguised as one. Xiaofan pointed toward the first tile. Broad shield enters first. Hold position. The broad-shouldered guardian moved. A wall rose behind him. The team did not panic. "Change confirmed," the short spear girl called. Chen Lai stepped onto the second tile. A side lane opened. The hooked blade boy crossed and marked the safe position. One by one, they created the route for the next member. Slow. Deliberate. Then the barrier pattern changed. A tile beneath Chen Lai dimmed too early. The wall beside Xiaofan began rising. The original formation was gone. For half a second, everyone looked toward him. Then training replaced hesitation. "Front line back," Chen Lai called. "Observation inward," the short spear girl answered. The hooked blade boy abandoned the forward marker and returned to the last confirmed position. The broad-shouldered guardian shifted from route control to defense. Xiaofan moved through the narrowing gap instead of trying to preserve the failed sequence. They rebuilt around the new positions. No perfect execution. No collapse. The final wall lowered. All 5 emerged together. A score notification flashed above their lane. Adaptation recovery. Excellent. The western stands erupted. Not the entire side. Class 7. 30 students shouted loudly enough to sound like 300. Zhang Hao climbed onto the lowest rail. Recovery before perfection. An instructor immediately pointed at him. Off the railing, he stepped down. Support has been restricted. Lin Xiaoyu was laughing too hard to answer. On the field, Xiaofan heard the distant cheer through the barrier. Heart resonance appeared. Environmental conditions stable. Aligned support maintained under pressure. A faint warmth spread through his chest. Not strength, not energy. Clarity. For one breath, the positions of his teammates felt unusually distinct. Not their thoughts, not their emotions, their readiness. Chen Lai was prepared to anchor. The short spear girl was prepared to redirect. The hooked blade boy was prepared to retreat. The broad-shouldered guardian was prepared to absorb pressure. The sensation vanished almost immediately. Xiaofan's step slowed. "Change?" Chen Lai asked. Xiaofan looked ahead. System response. Useful, unconfirmed. Weiron's warning remained clear. Unknown power was not a resource. Xiaofan did not build the next decision around it. Continue. They recovered the second core. The final route to the objective tower crossed an open ruin court. Elite Class 1 had already finished. Several elite teams followed. Standard Class 7 entered behind them, far from first place. Then an academy horn sounded. The court changed. 2 objective towers dimmed. A barrier split the remaining approach. Teams converged toward the last active tower. The obvious route became crowded. Raw speed would decide it. The short spear girl looked towards Xiao Fan. He looked at the collapsed wall on the right. Unstable. Narrow. Not prohibited. Alternate route. The hooked blade boy checked the gap. Passable. One at a time. Too slow, the broad-shouldered guardian said. Not if the main route stalls, Chen Li replied. Ahead, 3 teams reached the same bottleneck. Shields collided. No deliberate sabotage. Only too many bodies and too little space. Only too many bodies and too little space. Their pace collapsed. Standard Class 7 took the broken route. The broad-shouldered guardian cleared loose debris. The hooked blade boy marked footing. The short spear girl passed the supply course forward. Chen Lei guarded the rear. Xiao Fan crossed last. A stone shifted beneath his foot. His balance broke. Chen Lei caught the back of his academy vest and pulled him upright without stopping. Team condition, Chen Lei said. Stable. Xiao Fan answered. They emerged beside the tower. Not first, not close to first. Ahead of 6 teams that had entered the court before them. All 5 placed their hands against the objective seal. The 2 supply cores illuminated. Completion confirmed. For a moment, Xiao Fan heard only breathing. Then the scoreboard appeared above the dome. Standard Class 7. Completion time. 14th. Resource efficiency. 5th. Threat recognition. 2nd. Team integrity. 3rd. Adaptation recovery. 1st. The class total rose. Not enough to challenge Elite Class 1. Enough to move Standard Class 7 above 9 classes with stronger average combat ratings. The western stands went silent. Then exploded. The broad-shouldered guardian stared at the ranking. We're in the upper half. The hooked blade boy corrected him automatically. For this category, let me have the moment. The short spear girl looked toward Xiao Fan. Her face was flushed from exertion. We did not outrun them. No. We did not overpower them. No. A smile spread across her face. We still passed them. Xiao Fan looked at the score lines. Information before speed. Roles before pride. Recovery before perfection. The strategy had not created a miracle. It had created measurable value. That was better. Across the field, Zhao Kai stood beneath Elite Class 1's first-place marker. His team had dominated completion time and objective control. Their overall score remained far higher. But his gaze rested on Standard Class 7's adaptation recovery result. 1. The only category Elite Class 1 had not taken. He looked toward Xiao Fan. This time, there was no distant nod, only focused attention. A rival studying a result he had not expected. Above the observation deck, the silver-haired woman closed one scoring window and opened another. Heart resonance reacted during the barrier failure. The black-coated man watched Xiao Fan's team leave the course together. Did it alter performance? Insufficient evidence. Good. She glanced at him. Good. If we understood it after one test, it would not deserve this much caution. Below them, the public board updated again. Unclassified talent application. Selected participants report to the sealed evaluation arena after the adaptation interval. Xiao Fan read the notice as he reached the exit gate. The satisfaction around him did not disappear. It changed shape. The known test was over. The unknown one had arrived. Lin Xiaoyu met him outside the barrier. You proved the path exists. We proved it can produce points. That is what I said. It is more specific. She handed him water. This time, he accepted without calculating whether he needed it. Chen Hao appeared beside her. We also proved emergency nutrition remains underfunded. Chen Lai walked past him. We proved nothing about that. Luo Yun looked toward the sealed arena indicator. The next test will not reward what we prepared. Xiao Fan drank once, then lowered the bottle. No. The silver category glowed above the northern wall. Observation drones turned in unison. Around them, Class 7 celebrated a result no one had expected. Ahead, Academy security opened a gate that had remained sealed all morning. Their coordination had earned recognition. Now the Academy wanted to know why. The sealed evaluation gate closed behind Xiao Fan with a sound too soft for something that final. The noise of the northern simulation grounds disappeared. Class 7's cheering. Zhang Hao's complaints. The Academy announcements. Even the footsteps of students moving between events. All of it vanished beneath layers of silver barrier light. Ahead, a corridor descended into the earth. Its walls were smooth white stone, without class markings, ranking boards, or public screens. Thin observation runes formed narrow lines along the ceiling. They did not glow brightly. They did not need to. Xiao Fan could feel them watching. Tang Ruo walked a few steps ahead with her hands behind her back. You are thinking too loudly. I am not speaking. That has never stopped you. Gu Qingshui walked on Xiao Fan's other side. Frost-white mana rested quietly around her fingers, more like cold air than visible power. She glanced toward the ceiling. There are 12 active observation arrays. Tang Ruo looked up. 14. 2 are concealed. Then why did you say 12? Because concealed arrays are impolite. Tang Ruo laughed. Xiao Fan looked behind them. Zhao Kai entered last. The security gate sealed again. Blue-white sparks moved once across his shoulder before fading. 14, he said. Gu Qingshui's expression did not change. You count loudly. Zhao Kai ignored the comment. The 4 selected participants continued downward. Xiao Fan had expected tension between them. Instead, Tang Ruo seemed entertained. Gu Qingshui appeared mildly inconvenienced, and Zhao Kai carried the calm of someone entering a test he expected to understand. Xiao Fan was the only one whose talent had no accepted evaluation model. That difference followed him all the way to the final door. The sealed arena was smaller than the central ruin arena. Much smaller. A circular testing field occupied the center. 4 entry platforms surrounded it at equal distances. Movable walls, barrier columns, weighted gates, signal pylons, and training constructs waited beneath dim silver light. Above the field, observation rooms formed a complete ring. Most of the glass was mirrored. One section was transparent. Principal Han stood there with Li Zentian, Wai Rong, several instructors, the silver-haired woman, and the black-coated man. Xiao Fan's gaze paused on the last 2. The black-coated visitor noticed. He gave no sign of recognition. Principal Han's voice entered the arena through hidden speakers. The unclassified talent application evaluation is not a ranking event. Zhang Hao would have objected immediately. Xiao Fan remained quiet. The purpose is to observe application under changing conditions. Individual results may affect class contribution, only when they produce measurable value within Academy-recognized safety limits. 4 silver panels appeared above the field. Tang Ruo, Gu Qingshui, Zhao Kai, Xiao Fan, you will complete 3 stages. The first establishes individual response. The second introduces conflicting objectives. The third will not be explained in advance. Tang Ruo lifted her face toward the observation room. You could have simply said the third stage is a surprise. Li Zentian answered through the speaker. A surprise is pleasant. That sounds threatening. Good. The 4 entry platforms illuminated. Xiao Fan stepped onto his. A transparent barrier rose around him. The first stage began. A training construct emerged from the floor. It had no face and no weapon. Its body was built from dull black segments designed to change shape according to pressure. A silver instruction appeared. Reach the opposite marker. Xiao Fan looked across the enclosed lane. 30 meters. 3 barrier columns. 1 construct. No teammates. No sincere support signal inside the barrier. Heart resonance remained silent. The construct moved. Xiao Fan raised his shield. Its first strike was direct. Heavy but simple. He redirected it toward the nearest barrier column and advanced 2 steps. The construct changed. Its right arm divided into 2 narrower limbs. One pressed his shield. The other reached toward his unprotected side. Xiao Fan withdrew, adjusted his angle, and used the column to limit its approach. He was not fast. He was not strong enough to force a path. He studied. The construct responded to forward pressure by becoming heavier. It responded to retreat by extending its reach. It responded to lateral movement by splitting its limbs. Every obvious solution created a different problem. Xiao Fan stopped trying to defeat it. He stepped close enough to trigger the heavy form, shifted behind the column before the transformation completed, and moved through the space its slower body could no longer cover. He reached the marker. Completion time appeared. Average. Control score appeared. Above average. Talent response. None detected. The words remained visible longer than the others. In the neighboring lane, thunder cracked. Zhao Kai crossed his marker almost immediately after destroying the construct's balance with one precise burst. Gu Qingshui froze the joints of hers and walked past it. Tang Ruo somehow caused her construct to attack a false position while she crossed the lane untouched. Xiao Fan looked at their scores. The difference remained clear. Heart resonance had done nothing. Above the arena, one instructor spoke quietly to another. Xiao Fan could not hear the words. He did not need to. No application under individual pressure. Expected. The barriers lowered. Principal Han's voice returned. Stage 2. The circular field reconfigured. 4 objective pylons rose at different points. Each displayed a separate color. Red for Gu Qingshu. Gold for Tang Ruo. Pink gold for Xiao Fan. Gold for Xiao Fan. Movable walls formed intersecting routes between them. Each participant must activate their assigned pylon. Activating one may alter another participant's path. Direct attacks against other participants are prohibited. Interference through terrain is permitted. Zhao Kai looked toward the field. Competitive cooperation. Tang Ruo smiled. Or cooperative competition. Gu Qingshui stepped forward. The wording changes nothing. Xiao Fan studied the routes. Every pylon was reachable, not at the same time. If Zhao Kai took the shortest route, his first activation would raise a wall in front of Tang Ruo. If Gu Qingshui froze the central gate, it would open her lane but block Xiao Fan's. If Xiao Fan reached his own pylon directly, the rotating floor would divert Zhao Kai toward a longer path. The Academy was not testing whether they could cooperate. It was testing what they protected when objectives conflicted. The starting signal sounded. Zhao Kai moved first. Of course he did. Lightning accelerated his first 3 steps. He reached the central junction before the walls had fully risen. Gu Qingshui spread frost across the left gate. Tang Ruo disappeared behind a shifting reflection. Xiao Fan advanced at a controlled pace. No team, no shared objective, no aligned support. Heart resonance remained silent. Then Tang Ruo's voice came from somewhere to his right. Xiao Fan. 2 steps back. He obeyed before asking why. A wall slammed down where he had been standing. Her illusion had reached her pylon first, but she had used the opening to warn him instead of protecting only her own route. A faint warmth appeared in Xiao Fan's chest. Not a panel. Not yet. Gu Qingshui reached the frozen gate. The central mechanism resisted her mana. Frost spread across the hinges, but the gate did not open completely. Zhao Kai could have passed through the remaining gap. Instead, he struck the upper locking plate with a narrow lightning arc. The gate opened for both of them. Do not misunderstand, he said. Your obstruction was slowing my route. Gu Qingshui walked through. Your explanation is unnecessary. The warmth strengthened. 4 separate objectives still existed, but the participants had begun accounting for one another. Xiao Fan reached the next junction. A floor panel illuminated beneath Tang Ruo's hidden route. If he stepped forward, his path would open and hers would collapse. He stopped. Senior Tang, I see it. Can you cross in 4 seconds? 3, then move. Her reflection shifted. Xiao Fan counted. 1, 2, 3. He stepped onto the panel. His wall opened. Behind him, Tang Ruo cleared the collapsing path with half a second remaining. Heart resonance appeared. Environmental condition unstable. Multiple support signals present. Alignment incomplete. The panel vanished. Xiao Fan's attention sharpened. Support existed, but their objectives still divided them. The system could distinguish the difference. He reached his pylon third. Zhao Kai had already activated red. Gu Qingshui activated white a moment later. Tang Ruo reached gold last, not because she had been slower, but because she'd spent time protecting 2 other routes. All 4 pylons illuminated. Stage complete. The scoreboard did not show a winner. Instead, 4 categories appeared. Objective completion, environmental awareness, mutual interference, protective adjustment. Zhao Kai ranked highest in completion. Gu Qingshui ranked highest in control. Tang Ruo ranked highest in protective adjustment. Xiao Fan ranked second in environmental awareness and second in protective adjustment. Heart resonance response remained listed as partial. The black-coated man leaned closer to the observation glass. Xiao Fan saw the movement. The Academy had gained something, not enough. Principal Han's voice entered the arena again. Stage 3 will begin after a 2-minute reset. The floor started moving. The 4 pylons descended. Walls folded into the ground. Training constructs returned to their sealed compartments. Xiao Fan looked toward the mirrored observation ring. 14 arrays, possibly more. The Academy had tested him alone. Then among competing objectives. Neither condition had produced a clear application. That meant the 3rd stage would change the 1 variable heart resonance required. People, not merely nearby. Aligned. A security door opened on the far side of the arena. 5 silhouettes waited beyond it. Xiao Fan recognized the first before the light reached her face. Lin Xiaoyu stepped onto the field. Chen Hao followed immediately. I knew friendship would become an official evaluation category. Chen Lai walked behind him. It has not. Luo Yun entered last, studying the arena instead of the observers. Wai Rong came with him, then stopped beyond the boundary. Xiao Fan looked up at the observation room. The black-coated man was watching him now. Not the field. Not the others. Him. Principal Han spoke. Stage 3. Group emergency response. The silver floor beneath their feet began to break apart. The arena changed faster than any normal simulation. Sections of the floor dropped into darkness. Barrier walls rose at uneven angles. Red warning lights replaced the calm silver glow. At the center, 3 training constructs emerged at once. One carried a heavy impact frame. One divided into fast, narrow limbs. The third remained near the rear, projecting interference pulses that distorted the arena markers. A final objective appeared above them: protect the recovery beacon for 5 minutes. The beacon stood on unstable ground. No assigned roles appeared. No participant colors. No individual scoring panels. Only one timer. 4 minutes, 59 seconds. Chen Hao looked around. This is significantly less friendly than friendship. Chen Lai raised his shield. Positions. They moved before Xiao Fan gave an order. That mattered. Chen Lai took the inner defense beside the beacon. Luo Yun moved toward the nearest elevated fragment to read the arena changes. Lin Xiaoyu remained within support distance of both. Chen Hao shifted toward the fast construct before glancing back. I assume my role is heroic distraction. Mobile pressure, Luo Yun called. Heroic mobile pressure. Tang Ruo moved toward the interference construct. Gu Qingshui froze at the edge of the unstable platform. Zhao Kai stepped between the heavy construct and the beacon. For one moment, the group formed around a shared objective without discussion. Heart resonance appeared. Environmental condition unstable. Sincere support signals aligned toward shared objective. Observation interference increasing. The final line sharpened. The runes above the arena brightened. Xiao Fan felt pressure gather behind his eyes, not pain. Too many signals, too many people, too many observation arrays measuring every reaction. The heavy construct struck Zhao Kai. Lightning exploded across the impact frame. Zhao Kai held his ground, but the force pushed him half a step toward the beacon. Gu Qingshui froze the construct's left joint. Tang Ruo's illusion pulled the fast construct away from Lin Xiaoyu. Zhang Hao attacked its exposed side. Everyone was acting correctly. Heart resonance gave Xiao Fan nothing more. The timer fell. 4 minutes, 20 seconds. The interference construct released a pulse. The arena markers flickered. Luo Yun's elevated platform displayed 3 false cracks and 1 real one. Route information unreliable, he called. The fast construct changed direction. It moved toward the beacon. Chen Lei intercepted it. His shield caught the first lit. The second curved around the edge. Lin Xiaoyu raised a stabilizing barrier, but the construct struck the floor instead. The unstable platform tilted. Everyone adjusted, not together. Zhao Kai moved to destroy the heavy construct before the ground worsened. Gu Qingshui reinforced the beacon platform. Tang Ruo pursued the interference source. Chen Lai protected Lin Xiaoyu. Zhang Hao chased the fast construct. Every choice was reasonable. The formation still began to separate. Heart resonance pulsed once. Alignment weakening under conflicting response priorities. Xiao Fan understood. Shared objective did not guarantee shared decisions. The system was not rewarding friendship. It was identifying whether support remained aligned when pressure forced different choices. He raised his voice. Do not solve separate problems. Protect one condition. Zhao Kai glanced toward him. Which condition? Xiao Fan looked at the beacon. Not the timer. Not the conmer. Not the conmer. Not the constructs. The beacon platform had 4 anchor points. 2 were already unstable. If the third failed, the objective would collapse regardless of how many constructs remained. Keep 3 anchors stable. Everything else is secondary. Gu Qingshui changed first. She abandoned the outer floor and froze the nearest damaged anchor. Chen Lai rotated inward to protect the second. Luo Yun stopped reporting every false route. Only anchor threats, he said. Tang Ruo released her pursuit and redirected the interference construct's attention away from the beacon. Zhang Hao returned to the inner ring. Heroic mobile pressure has been reassigned. Lin Xiaoyu answered. Try not to sound disappointed. I contain multitudes. The alignment stabilized. A faint warmth spread through Xiao Fan's chest. Then the arena changed again. The heavy construct struck Zhao Kai's guard. The frozen joint shattered free. The fast construct attacked from the opposite side. The interference pulse distorted every marker at once. Heart resonance opened, not wider. Clearer. For a single breath, Xiao Fan felt the readiness around him. Zhao Kai was prepared to absorb one more direct impact before countering. Gu Qingshui was prepared to abandon her attack and reinforce the anchor. Tang Ruo was prepared to redirect the fast construct, but only if someone covered the space behind her. Chen Lei was prepared to move inward. Luo Yun was prepared to call the real route. Zhang Hao was prepared to intercept anything that crossed the inner line. Lin Xiaoyu was prepared to stabilize whichever person failed first. No thoughts, no emotions, no commands from the system. Only readiness. Likely functional response. The same brief clarity from the barrier corridor. This time, Xiao Fan knew what it was. He also knew the danger of trusting it too much. Readiness was not certainty. People could hesitate. Conditions could change. He used it as information, not control. Zhao Kai, hold once. Gu Qingshui, third anchor. Tang Ruo, redirect left. Chen Lai, cover her space. Zhang Hao, inner intercept. The commands came quickly. No one asked why. Zhao Kai received the heavy strike and stopped it. Gu Qingshui's frost reached the third anchor before it broke. Tang Ruo created a false opening to the left. The fast construct followed. Chen Lai moved into the space she abandoned. Zhang Hao struck the construct as it crossed the inner line. Luo Yun's voice cut through the interference. Real fracture behind the beacon. Lin Xiaoyu was already moving. She placed both hands against the damaged floor and stabilized it with a pale support barrier. The entire sequence lasted less than 4 seconds. Above the arena, every observation rune flashed. The silver-haired woman stood. Response correlation confirmed. The black-coated man did not answer. His gaze remained fixed on Xiao Fan. The timer reached 3 minutes. The arena increased pressure. 2 additional interference pulses struck the field. The constructs changed patterns. Heart resonance clarity disappeared. Xiao Fan did not try to force it back. He returned to ordinary observation. Changes only, he called. Luo Yun reported a real fracture. Chen Lai confirmed the inner line. Gu Qingshui announced the limit of her frozen anchor. Tang Ruo warned before an illusion collapsed. Zhao Kai stated when he could no longer hold the heavy construct without moving. Zhang Hao somehow continued talking while fighting. For the official record, I am performing exceptionally. The official record can see you, Chen Lai said. Then it should appreciate me more visibly. Lin Xiaoyu laughed once. The sound was brief. It steadied something in the group. 2 minutes. The heavy construct's impact frame overheated. Zhao Kai could have destroyed it. Doing so would require a full lightning release near the unstable anchors. He looked toward Xiao Fan. Not for permission, for assessment. Xiao Fan shook his head. Redirect. Zhao Kai changed the angle of his next strike and drove the construct away from the beacon instead of finishing it. The choice sacrificed individual performance. It protected the shared condition. Heart resonance warmed again. No panel appeared. The observers saw only the result. 1 minute. The fast construct broke through Tang Ruo's illusion. Chen Lai caught it. His shield twisted under the impact. Lin Xiaoyu stepped toward him. At the same moment, the third anchor cracked. She stopped. 1 person. 1 objective. Both needed her. Xiao Fan felt no system clarity. He looked at Chen Lai. His stance was damaged but stable. Anchor, Xiao Fan said. Lin Xiaoyu trusted him. She turned away from Chen Lai and reinforced the platform. Chen Lai absorbed the second hit alone, dropped to 1 knee, and remained between the construct and the beacon. Team condition? Xiao Fan called. Chen Lai exhaled through clenched teeth. Functional. 30 seconds. The interference construct released 1 final pulse. Every visual marker disappeared. The arena became silver darkness broken only by mana. Blue lightning. White frost. Pale support light. Tang Ruo's shifting gold reflections. The beacon at the center. The system panel appeared once more. Alliance support maintained under observation interference. Functional readiness clarity available. Xiao Fan did not receive a list. He did not need one. The group had learned the condition together. Hold positions, he said. 10 seconds. The heavy construct charged. Zhao Kai stopped it. The fast construct changed direction. Zhang Hao intercepted. The third anchor fractured. Gu Qingshui and Lin Xiaoyu stabilized it from opposite sides. Tang Ruo drew the interference construct away. Chen Lai protected the beacon. Luo Yun called the final real hazard through the false signals. Xiao Fan shifted 1 step and raised his shield where the group would need space, not where the nearest attack appeared. The timer reached 0. Every construct stopped. The silver darkness vanished. The beacon remained active. No one spoke for several breaths. Zhang Hao was the first. I would like the record to show that friendship survived. Chen Lai lowered his damaged shield. The record will show that you talked for 5 minutes. Consistency is a strength. Gu Qingshui looked toward Xiao Fan. You anticipated responses without issuing advance instructions. It was not a question. Xiao Fan answered carefully. For a brief period I could identify readiness, not thoughts, not guaranteed actions. Zhao Kai's gaze sharpened. You knew I would hold the impact. I knew you were prepared to. Difference. You could still have chosen not to. Zhao Kai considered that. Then he looked toward the observation room. Difficult to measure. Yes. Xiao Fan said. Tang Ruo smiled. That is probably why they invited us underground. The mirrored glass above them turned transparent. Principal Han stood at the center of the observation room. Beside him, the silver-haired woman held several overlapping scoring panels. None displayed a normal combat value. Li Zhenqian's voice entered the arena. Preliminary finding. Heart resonance demonstrates conditional team value application under sincere alignment and sustained pressure. The words appeared above Xiao Fan's platform. Conditional. Team value, application. Not power increase. Not command. Not mind reading. The black-coated man added the final line. Effect remains unstable under observation interference and cannot be classified through current support, perception, or command standards. Xiao Fan looked at him. Does that affect my evaluation? It is your evaluation, the man replied. The 4 selected panels changed. Zhao Kai received an exceptional application score. Gu Qingshui received an exceptional control score. Tang Ruo received an exceptional adaptive utility score. Xiao Fan's panel remained blank for 2 seconds longer. Then a silver classification appeared. Practical value confirmed. Classification pending. A murmur moved through the observation room. Not surprise. Adjustment. The Academy now possessed evidence. Not enough to understand heart resonance. Enough to stop treating it as empty potential. Principal Han raised one hand. The evaluation is complete. Results will be incorporated into the resource competition after review. No restricted system details will be released publicly. The security doors opened. Cool morning air entered the sealed arena. Outside, Standard Class 7 waited beyond the boundary. All 30 of them. Wei Rong stood at the front. He looked at Xiao Fan's panel once. Practical value confirmed. Classification pending. Then he looked at Xiao Fan. Useful? Xiao Fan considered the question, conditionally. Wei Rong nodded, then learned the conditions. Zhang Hao appeared beside Xiao Fan before the security line fully lowered. I've already learned one. Chen Lei sighed. Do not say friendship. Enhanced cafeteria nutrition. That is not a condition. It improves every condition. Lin Xiaoyu handed Xiao Fan the water bottle he had returned before entering the arena. You were right. About what? The path-producing points. Xiao Fan looked back through the open gate. Observation arrays dimmed one by one. The silver-haired woman continued reviewing the data. The black-coated man remained behind the glass. The Academy had found practical value. It had also found another reason to keep watching. Xiao Fan accepted the bottle. They still do not understand it. Lin Xiaoyu stood beside him. Neither do you. Correct. Then you can learn before they decide what it means for you. The answer was simple. Not reassuring in the way most people preferred. Reassuring in the way Xiao Fan understood. The system panel appeared faintly at the edge of his vision. Observation interference reduced. Aligned support condition remains valid. No reward followed. No new ability appeared. The panel faded. Around him, Class 7 began arguing over whether a pending classification counted as a victory. Zhang Hao declared that any result requiring 2 lines was automatically prestigious. Luo Yun disagreed on grammatical grounds. Chen Lai wanted someone to inspect his shield. Gu Qingshui left without comment. Tang Ruo promised to find out which observation instructor had written the most confused notes. Zhao Kai paused at the gate. He looked once toward Xiao Fan, not at his shield. Not at the silver classification. At the people gathered around him. Then he walked toward the next competition field. Xiao Fan followed with Standard Class 7. Behind them, the sealed arena closed again. The Academy had confirmed that heart resonance could create practical value where ordinary rankings failed to measure it. It had not confirmed how far that value could reach. For now, that uncertainty belonged to both of them. The western sky was still wrapped in darkness when the first Blue Academy runes awakened across the training grounds. Mist drifted over the practice field, curling around rows of wooden barriers, shield dummies, route flags, and supply markers that had been arranged overnight for one final rehearsal. Dew shimmered beneath the rune light, giving the empty ground an almost peaceful appearance. The illusion lasted exactly 3 seconds. Why? Zhang Hao groaned from beneath a blanket, wrapped around his shoulders like ceremonial robes. Does strategy require mornings? Chen Lai tightened the leather straps around his shield without looking up. Because enemies rarely schedule battles after breakfast. I object. No one asked. I object anyway. Luo Yun walked past carrying a bundle of route markers. Good. You can object while placing these. Zhang Hao accepted the markers with the expression of a condemned man. I support tactical planning. He yawned. I simply disagree with consciousness. Lin Xiaoyu caught one of the markers before it slipped from his hand. You were asleep standing up. I was conserving stamina. That isn't how sleep works. It is now. Several students laughed. The sound carried across the cold field. Only a few days ago, Standard Class 7 would never have laughed together before an important examination. Now the mood was different. Not relaxed. Focused. The discussion from the previous evening had changed something subtle inside the class. They were no longer wondering whether they could defeat stronger opponents. They were asking how. Xiao Fan stood at the center of the field with a clipboard in one hand. Today's exercises were simple, short, uncomfortable, exactly as intended. Long battles revealed endurance. Short disruptions revealed habits. Habits won competitions. First rotation. His voice was calm enough that everyone naturally quieted. Formation change. 5 students immediately stepped forward. The broad-shouldered guardian took the front. The short spear girl positioned herself slightly behind his right shoulder. Chen Lei anchored the center. The hooked blade boy waited near the flank. A quiet support student carried the practice supply token. Wai Rong remained near the boundary with folded arms, watching. Always watching. No encouragement. No criticism. Only observation. The whistle sounded. The team advanced. 30 seconds later, the formation collapsed. The guardian pushed too aggressively into the simulated choke point, leaving the supply carrier exposed when Luo Yun quietly moved a route flag to indicate a changing objective. Stop. Everyone froze. Xiao Fan made one note. Again. No lecture. No blame. The second attempt lasted longer. The third reached the objective marker. It also abandoned one teammate behind a simulated barrier. Another note appeared on Xiao Fan's sheet. Chan Hao finally opened one eye. Should that reduce the score? We don't know. I dislike invisible punishment. Luo Yun calmly shifted another route marker. You dislike visible punishment too. Consistency is an admirable trait. The class laughed again. Even Wai Rong's expression almost softened before returning to its usual unreadable calm. The short spear girl returned from the failed drill breathing heavily. We reached the objective. You left one member behind. A barrier separated us. You confirmed that. Silence. She looked toward the student still waiting patiently behind the simulated obstruction. The communication rules they had established yesterday had worked perfectly. The isolated student had returned to the last confirmed position, exactly as instructed. The rest of the formation had simply assumed she would catch up. Assumption, not confirmation. The distinction mattered. The short spear girl nodded once. We assumed. Xiao Fan wrote another line. No argument, no. She accepted the mistake without trying to justify it. That mattered even more. Again, more groans. Wai Rong finally spoke. If you have enough energy to complain, the drill is too easy. The complaints disappeared immediately. The next exercise began without warning. Luo Yun quietly blocked the obvious route with 2 wooden hazard markers. The candidate slowed. One student instinctively looked toward Xiao Fan. He said nothing. If every unexpected situation required him to make the decision, then the plan itself had already failed. The hooked blade boy pointed toward a narrow path between 2 equipment racks. Alternate route. Unconfirmed. Then confirm it. Instead of charging ahead. The guardian raised his shield toward the blocked lane while the hooked blade boy checked the side passage. Clear. Confirmed. Confirmed. Only then did the formation move. Slow. Disciplined. Together. When Luo Yun immediately blocked the route behind them, nobody panicked. The rear guard reported only the change. No lengthy explanation. No repeated information. Exactly as planned. Xiao Fan watched quietly. Yesterday he had written functions on the classroom board. Today those functions were becoming habits. The guardian controlled space. The short spear girl coordinated movement. The hooked blade boy confirmed routes. Chen Lai stabilized the center whenever pressure shifted. The final member continuously tracked supplies and team condition. Not the strongest lineup. The most adaptable. They reached the marker with barely 20 seconds remaining. For a heartbeat, the entire field became silent. Then Zhang Hao threw the blanket dramatically into the air. We have achieved friendship. No. Victory? No. Progress? Xiao Fan finally nodded. Yes. That single word earned more smiles than any speech could have. Wai Rong stepped forward carrying the final evaluation sheet. The roster. Every candidate straightened. The names were read one by one. Xiao Fan, Chen Lei, the broad-shouldered guardian, the short spear girl, the hooked blade boy. 2 reserves followed. The students who weren't selected looked disappointed. None protested. They had seen every drill, every weakness, every recovery. The decision belonged to the process, not to favoritism. Wai Rong lowered the sheet. Selection is not praise. His eyes moved across the chosen 5. It is responsibility. Then toward everyone else. Preparation belongs to all 30 of you. No one spoke. Those words settled much deeper than a simple congratulations. The academy bell rang. Across the campus, blue class indicators shifted to white. Registration had officially closed. The first-year resource competition had begun. Xiao Fan looked toward the northern simulation grounds where the transparent barrier dome shimmered beneath the morning sun. Yesterday, the competition had looked like an impossible wall. Today, it looked like terrain. Terrain could be studied. Terrain could be understood. Terrain could be overcome. Standard Class 7 picked up their equipment and walked toward the waiting arena together. The northern simulation grounds had been transformed overnight. Artificial ruins rose beneath the transparent barrier dome. Broken corridors intersected with patches of dense woodland, shallow water channels, raised platforms, and narrow bridges. 3 objective towers stood at different points near the center, their silver surfaces dark for now. Around the outer boundary, viewing platforms divided the academy by class. Elite students occupied the eastern stands. Standard classes filled the west. The separation was not written into the rules. It did not need to be. Standard Class 7 entered through the western preparation gate. No one looked toward the elite stands. That was another change. A week ago, half the class would have measured themselves against the equipment, uniforms, and effortless confidence displayed across the arena. Today, they checked straps, counted supplies, reviewed functions. Xiao Fan placed the academy-issued pack on the inspection table. Water, binding cloth, signal tags, 2 barrier flares, 1 recovery tonic, nothing extra, nothing missing. Tang Ruo walked along the inspection line with a silver tablet tucked against one arm. She checked the seal on Xiao Fan's pack, then glanced toward the 5-person formation waiting behind him. The broad-shouldered guardian stood slightly forward. Chen Lai held the center. The short spear girl remained mobile between them. The hooked blade boy watched the arena entrances. Xiao Fan occupied no fixed point. He would shift wherever the formation required him. Tang Ruo's gaze lingered on their spacing. Interesting. Xiao Fan looked at her tablet. That is not an official score. Everything can become an official score if enough instructors argue about it. That sounds inefficient. It is one of the Academy's oldest traditions. She resealed the pack and moved on. At the adjacent lane, Elite Class 1 waited beneath silver markers. Their equipment was Academy Standard, Elite Issue. Reinforced armor, higher-grade support packs. Weapons calibrated for the simulation barriers. Their formation looked effortless. Zhao Kai stood at the front. Blue-white sparks moved once along the edge of his gauntlet before disappearing. He did not look toward Xiao Fan immediately. Only when the countdown appeared above the arena, 10, 9, 8, Zhao Kai's gaze shifted. Not toward Xiao Fan's shield. Toward the formation behind him. Measuring, Xiao Fan returned the look without challenge. There was nothing to say. There was nothing to say. The barrier gates lowered. Teams entered through separate lanes. Standard Class 7 moved at a controlled pace. 3 teams passed them before they reached the first junction. From the western stands, Zhang Hao gripped the railing. We are already losing. Lu Yun watched the arena map. The event began 12 seconds ago. Exactly. 12 seconds of documented defeat. Lin Xiaoyu pointed toward the far left corridor. Look. The fastest standard team had rushed beneath a cracked support wall without checking the upper structure. A warning rune flashed. Loose stone collapsed across the lane. The barrier prevented injury. It did not prevent penalties. Red lights appeared over their class marker. Their route closed. Zhang Hao slowly released the railing. I was testing your confidence. No, Lu Yun said. Inside the course, Xiao Fan heard the collapse behind the barrier walls. He did not turn. Change. The hooked blade boy answered immediately. Impact in the left corridor. Likely obstruction. Confirmed once, the short spear girl said. No one repeated the report. The team continued through the central route. Every member watched a different layer of the environment. Xiao Fan tracked terrain transitions and objective conditions. Chen Lai monitored formation integrity. The broad-shouldered guardian examined physical hazards and narrow spaces. The hooked blade boy checked route signs. The short spear girl tracked supplies, time, and team condition. Their first supply core appeared beneath a broken platform beside a shallow water channel. It glowed blue. Visible, reachable, too obvious. The broad-shouldered guardian shifted toward it. Wait. He stopped immediately. Xiao Fan crouched near the edge of the stone. No tracks, no pressure runes, no visible mechanism. The water moved gently around the support pillars. Then he noticed the current. It flowed east. A thin ribbon beneath the platform moved west. Environmental change. The others tightened formation. The hooked blade boy leaned forward without crossing the stone boundary. Current is wrong. Chen Lei studied the platform supports. Hidden intake? Likely, the short spear girl scanned the moss-covered wall. Her spear tip paused. There, a narrow vent had been concealed beneath the artificial growth. The supply core itself was not trapped. The route to it was. A student stepping onto the lower platform would trigger a sudden water surge. Not dangerous enough to stop the event, strong enough to knock someone into the channel and waste time. Xiao Fan removed a signal tag from the pack and attached it beside the vent. Threat identified. A blue scoring light appeared above their lane. The western stands reacted first, then the observation platforms. One instructor leaned over a tablet. Another shifted closer to the barrier glass. Tang Ruo's mouth curved faintly. Li Zentian remained still. The team moved. Chen Lai anchored a line around one of the upper supports. The hooked blade boy crossed from above rather than below. When the vent activated, the broad-shouldered guardian angled his shield into the surge and redirected the water away from the climber. The core came free. No penalty. One objective complete. They advanced deeper into the ruins. Above the arena, class markers moved across the public board. Elite Class 1 had already recovered both supply cores. Their marker approached the central objective tower with frightening speed. Chen Hao pointed toward it. So much for information before speed. Their information is also fast, Luo Yun said. That was the real problem. The elite teams were not careless. Strength gave them options. Speed gave them time to correct mistakes. Standard Class 7 could not depend on arrogance from stronger opponents. Their plan had to work even when the elite classes performed well. The second core lay beyond a shifting barrier corridor. Blue walls rose and fell across a sequence of pressure tiles. 3 teams reached the entrance at nearly the same time. The first charged through an opening as soon as it appeared. They made it. The next 2 followed. Walls separated both formations. Standard Class 7 stopped outside. The short spear girl counted the intervals. 4 seconds. 6, 4, 8. Chen Lai watched the next cycle. Not repeating. Trigger-based, Xiao Fan said. The hook blade boy lowered his gaze. Pressure tiles. Every movement changed the next wall pattern. It was not a timing test. It was a coordination test, pretending to be one. Xiao Fan pointed toward the first tile. Broad shield first. Hold position after entry. The guardian stepped forward. A wall rose behind him. No one panicked. Change confirmed, the short spear girl called. Chen Lai stepped onto the second tile. A narrow side lane opened. The hook blade boy crossed and placed a route marker. One by one, they created the next safe position for someone else. Slow, deliberate, the formation advanced. Then a tile beneath Chen Lai dimmed earlier than expected. A wall started rising beside Xiao Fan. The original sequence was gone. For half a second, everyone looked toward him. Training replaced hesitation. Front line back, Chen Lai called. Observation inward, the short spear girl answered. The hooked blade boy abandoned the forward marker and returned to the last confirmed position. The guardian shifted from route control to defense. Xiao Fan moved through the narrowing gap instead of trying to preserve the failed arrangement. The formation broke, then rebuilt. Different positions, same functions. The final wall lowered. All 5 emerged together. A scoring notification appeared above their lane. Adaptation recovery. Excellent. The western stands erupted. Not every class. Only Standard Class 7. 30 students shouted loudly enough to fill the entire side of the arena. Chang Hao climbed onto the lowest rail. Recovery before perfection. An instructor pointed at him, off the railing. He stepped down immediately. Support has been administratively restricted. Lin Xiaoyu laughed. On the field, the cheers reached Xiao Fan through layers of barrier light. Warmth appeared in his chest. Heart resonance. Environmental conditions stable. Aligned support maintained under pressure. The panel sharpened. For one breath, his teammates became strangely clear. Not their thoughts. Not their feelings. Readiness. Chen Lai was prepared to anchor. The short spear girl was prepared to redirect. The hooked blade boy was prepared to retreat. The broad-shouldered guardian was prepared to absorb pressure. The sensation disappeared before Xiao Fan could examine it further. His pace slowed by half a step. Chen Lai noticed. Change? System response. Useful? Xiao Fan looked ahead. Unconfirmed. Unknown power was not a resource. Wei Rong's warning remained correct. One brief sensation did not justify changing the plan. Continue. They recovered the second core. The final objective tower stood across an open ruined court. Elite Class 1 had already finished. Several other elite teams followed. Standard Class 7 entered far behind the leaders. Then the academy horn sounded. 2 of the 3 objective towers dimmed. A barrier split the central approach. Every remaining team converged toward the last active tower. The direct route narrowed into a bottleneck. Speed would decide who reached it first. The short spear girl looked toward Xiao Fan. He studied the collapsed wall on the right. Unstable. Narrow. Not prohibited. Alternate route. The hooked blade boy checked the gap. Passable. One at a time. Too slow, the Guardian said. Not if the main route stalls, Chen Lai replied. Ahead, 3 teams reached the bottleneck together. Shields collided. No deliberate attack. No violation. Only too many bodies and too little space. Their pace collapsed. Standard Class 7 entered the broken route. The Guardian cleared loose debris. The hooked blade boy marked stable footing. The short spear girl passed the supply cores forward. Chen Lai guarded the rear. Xiao Fan crossed last. A stone shifted beneath his foot. His balance broke. Chen Lai caught the back of his academy vest and pulled him upright without stopping. Team condition. Stable. They emerged beside the objective tower. Not first. Not close to first. Ahead of 6 teams that had entered the open court before them. All 5 placed their hands against the objective seal. The 2 supply cores illuminated. Completion confirmed. For several breaths, Xiao Fan heard nothing but the team's breathing. Then the scoreboard appeared above the dome. Standard Class 7. Completion time, 14th. Resource efficiency, 5th. Threat recognition, 2nd. Team integrity, 3rd. Adaptation recovery, 1st. Their total rose. Not enough to threaten Elite Class 1. Enough to place them above 9 classes with stronger average combat ratings. The Western stands fell silent. Then, exploded. The Guardian stared at the board. We're in the upper half. The hooked blade boy looked at him. For this category, let me have the moment. The short spear girl turned towards Xiao Fan. Her breathing remained heavy. Her smile did not. We didn't outrun them. No. We didn't overpower them. No. We still passed them. Xiao Fan looked at the score lines. Information before speed. Roles before pride. Recovery before perfection. The strategy had not created a miracle. It had created measurable value. That was better. Across the field, Zhao Kai stood beneath Elite Class 1's first-place marker. His team had dominated completion time and objective control. Their score remained far higher. His attention rested on only one line: adaptation recovery. First, the category Elite Class 1 had not taken. He looked toward Xiao Fan. No distant acknowledgement. No casual nod. Focused attention. A rival examining a result he had not expected. Above the observation deck, the silver-haired woman closed one scoring panel and opened another. Heart resonance reacted during the barrier failure. The black-coated observer watched Standard Class 7 leave the course together. Did it alter performance? Insufficient. Evidence. Good. She looked toward him. Good? If we understood it after one test, it would not require this much caution. Below them, the public board changed. Unclassified talent application. Selected participants report to the sealed evaluation arena after the adaptation interval. Xiao Fan read the notice as he passed through the exit gate. The satisfaction around him did not disappear. It changed shape. The known competition was over. The unknown evaluation had arrived. Lin Xiaoyu met him beyond the barrier. You prove the path exists. We proved it can produce points. That is what I said. It is more specific. She handed him a water bottle. This time, he accepted it without considering whether he needed to conserve the contents. Chang Hao appeared beside her. We also proved emergency nutrition remains underfunded. Chen Lai walked past him. We proved nothing about that. Luo Yun looked toward the sealed evaluation indicator glowing above the northern wall. The next test will not reward what we prepared. Xiao Fan drank once. No. Around them, Class 7 celebrated a result no one had expected. Ahead, Academy security opened a gate that had remained sealed all morning. Observation drones turned toward him in unison. Their coordination had earned recognition. Now the Academy wanted to know why. The sealed evaluation gate closed behind Xiao Fan with a sound too quiet for something that final. Noise vanished. Class 7 celebration. Zhang Hao's complaints. Announcements from the arena. Footsteps passing through the northern grounds. All of it disappeared beneath layers of silver barrier light. A corridor descended into the earth. Smooth white stone lined the walls. No class symbols. No public rankings. No academy banners. Thin observation runes ran along the ceiling in narrow, precise lines. They barely glowed. Xiao Fan could still feel them. Tang Ruo walked several steps ahead with her hands behind her back. You are thinking too loudly. I am not speaking. That has never stopped you. Gu Qingshui moved on Xiao Fan's other side. Frost-white mana rested around her fingers like cold air. Her gaze lifted toward the ceiling. 12 active observation arrays. Tang Ruo looked up. 14. 2 are concealed. Then why did you say 12? Because concealed arrays are impolite. Tang Ruo laughed softly. Footsteps sounded behind them. Zhao Kai entered last. Blue-white sparks moved once across his shoulder before fading. 14, he said. Gu Qingshui glanced back. You count loudly. Zhao Kai ignored her. The four participants continued downward. Xiao Fan had expected tension. Instead, Tang Ruo looked entertained. Gu Qingshui appeared mildly inconvenienced. Zhao Kai walked with the calm of someone entering a test he expected to understand. Xiao Fan alone possessed a talent with no accepted evaluation model. That difference followed him to the final door. The sealed arena beyond it was smaller than the central ruin arena. A circular testing field occupied the center. 4 entry platforms surrounded it. Movable walls, barrier columns, weighted gates, signal pylons and training constructs waited beneath dim silver light. Observation rooms formed a complete ring overhead. Most of the glass was mirrored. One section remained transparent. Principal Han stood there beside Li Zhenqian, Wai Rong, several instructors, the silver-haired woman, and the black-coated observer. Xiao Fan's gaze paused on the last two. The black-coated man noticed. He gave no sign. Principal Han's voice entered the arena through hidden speakers. The unclassified talent application evaluation is not a ranking event. Zhang Hao would have objected immediately. Xiao Fan remained silent. The purpose is to observe application under changing conditions. Individual results may affect class contribution only when they produce measurable value within Academy-recognized safety limits. 4 silver panels appeared above the field. Tang Ruo, Gu Qingshui, Zhao Kai, Xiao Fan. You will complete 3 stages. The first establishes individual response. The second introduces conflicting objectives. The third will not be explained in advance. Tang Ruo looked toward the observation room. You could have said the third stage is a surprise. Li Zhenqian answered. A surprise is pleasant. That sounds threatening. Good. The 4 platforms. That sounds threatening. Good. Illuminated. Xiao Fan stepped onto his. A transparent barrier rose around him. Stage 1 began. The silver barrier sealed completely. A soft chime echoed through the arena. No countdown appeared. No instructions. No visible opponent. Xiao Fan remained still. Every previous Academy assessment had rewarded quick reactions. This one rewarded observation. A faint pulse spread across the floor beneath his feet. 5 stone pillars rose from the circular platform one after another. Each pillar displayed an Academy emblem. Guardian, Assault, Scout, Support, Command. Principal Han's voice sounded calmly through the arena. Stage 1. Individual application. The objective is simple. Reach the central platform. No restriction is placed upon your method. Begin. The floor shifted. The 5 pillars rotated, rearranging the arena into a maze of moving barriers. Xiao Fan did not rush forward. Neither did Gu Qingshui. Tang Ruo casually leaned against one barrier as if waiting for someone else to solve the problem first. Only Zhao Kai moved immediately. Lightning burst beneath his feet. His figure crossed the first obstacle before the stone wall had fully risen. Observation screens above the arena immediately displayed timing comparisons. Outstanding mobility. Minimal hesitation. Optimal path prediction. Optimal path prediction. Li Zhenqian folded his arms. As expected, Wei Rong watched Xiao Fan instead. He hasn't moved. He is gathering information. The silver-haired researcher quietly recorded another note. Consistent behavioral pattern. Inside the arena. Xiao Fan observed the rotating walls. The openings changed. Not randomly. Each movement followed the rotation of one pillar. He shifted his attention from the maze itself to the 5 emblems. Guardian, Assault, Scout, Support, Command. The Guardian pillar rotated once every 6 seconds. The Scout pillar rotated twice within the same period. The others maintained their own rhythm. The maze was not changing independently. It was responding to the interaction of the 5 pillars. Xiao Fan stepped toward the command pillar instead of the nearest opening. His hand rested briefly against its surface. Nothing happened. Good. It confirmed his suspicion. The pillars were references rather than switches. The arena wanted participants to identify the governing pattern before moving. He finally took his first step. Rather than chasing openings, he moved according to the pillar cycle. Each turn brought him naturally toward the center. No wasted movement. No sudden retreat. Above the arena, several instructors exchanged surprised glances. Slow, but efficient. He hasn't encountered a dead end. Meanwhile, Zhao Kai had already reached the inner ring. He struck aside a descending barrier with a single lightning-enhanced punch, and continued forward without breaking stride. His solution relied on overwhelming capability. Entirely valid, Gu Qingshui reached the same position moments later. Instead of destroying obstacles, thin sheets of frost briefly slowed the rotating walls just enough for her to pass. Elegant, precise. Tang Ruo remained the strangest. She deliberately chose longer routes. Every unnecessary detour revealed another movement pattern. She smiled to herself. So that's what you're testing. Principal Han watched silently. Xiao Fan entered the inner ring several minutes behind Zhao Kai. His completion time would never be first. That had never been the objective. He crossed the final platform. A silver light surrounded him. Evaluation complete. Method assessment. Excellent environmental analysis. Excellent pattern recognition. High resource efficiency. Average completion speed. No penalties. Xiao Fan looked up at the observation room. Nothing more happened. Stage 1 had not been about strength. It had been about applying one's talent to solve an unfamiliar problem. For Heart Resonance, there had been nothing to activate. No teammates. No shared objective. No sincere aligned support. The system remained completely silent. Exactly as expected. The barriers dissolved. All 4 participants returned to the central platform. Tan Ryo stretched lazily. I dislike puzzles. Zhao Kai glanced at her. You deliberately solved the longest route. I was bored. Gu Qingshui looked toward Xiao Fan. Your route minimized uncertainty. It minimized corrections. That is different. It usually becomes the same thing. For the first time since entering the arena, Gu Qingshui allowed the faintest smile. Interesting. The arena lights dimmed again. Principal Han spoke. Stage 2. Conflicting objectives. 4 sealed containers descended into the center of the arena. Each emitted a different colored beacon. Red, blue, gold. Gold. White. The objective assigned to each participant will differ. You may cooperate. You may compete. You may ignore one another. No action is prohibited unless it violates Academy safety rules. Evaluation begins now. Each participant's now. Wristband illuminated privately. Xiao Fan lowered his eyes. Objective. Deliver the white beacon safely to the extraction platform. Avoid unnecessary conflict. He looked toward the others. None revealed their assignments. Nor should they. The real examination had begun. The 4 participants moved simultaneously. No one headed directly toward the nearest beacon. That alone revealed the nature of the exercise. Conflicting objectives did not necessarily mean opposing objectives. They meant incomplete information. Zhao Kai reached the red beacon first. Blue-white lightning wrapped around his arm as he lifted the container. The moment it left its pedestal, 3 mechanical constructs emerged from concealed compartments beneath the arena floor. Steel limbs unfolded with mechanical precision. Training grade. Fast enough to pressure. Weak enough to avoid serious injury. Zhao Kai did not slow. A single burst of lightning shattered the first construct's balance. The second received a sweeping kick. The third attempted to flank him before a barrier wall rose unexpectedly between them. His route remained intact. Gu Qingshui ignored every visible beacon. Instead, she walked slowly around the arena's perimeter. Ice crystals spread across the floor wherever she stepped. She was mapping movement rather than chasing objectives. Tan Ryo smiled. So everyone noticed. She casually picked up the blue beacon. Nothing happened. No constructs. No barriers. No alarms. She tilted her head. So mine isn't trapped. Xiao Fan approached the white beacon without touching it. He studied the platform. 4 anchor points. 3 pressure grooves. 1 recessed locking ring. Unlike Zhao Kai's platform, this one showed no obvious trigger, which made it more suspicious. He crouched. The locking ring contained faint abrasion marks. Repeated movement. Horizontal, not vertical. He stepped back. The beacon itself was never the trigger. The pedestal was. He removed 1 Academy-issued signal tag from his pouch and slid it carefully beneath the base. The beacon lifted by less than a finger's width. Nothing activated. He rotated it slightly. A soft click echoed beneath the platform. The locking mechanism disengaged. Only then did he lift the beacon completely. No constructs emerged. No penalty indicators appeared. Above the observation room, Weirong allowed himself a faint nod. He looked for the mechanism before the prize. Li Zentian replied evenly. He looked for the designer. The white beacon felt unexpectedly heavy. Not physically. Responsibility. His objective required safe delivery. Conflict reduced efficiency. He turned toward the extraction platform. A barrier rose directly across the shortest route. 3 new corridors opened instead. None led straight to the destination. The arena adapted. Tang Ruo reached 1 intersection simultaneously. She held the blue beacon loosely over one shoulder. Our paths cross. They do. You aren't going to ask what my objective is? No. Good answer. She smiled and disappeared into the left corridor. Neither attempted to interfere with the other. Mutual uncertainty made unnecessary conflict irrational. Ahead, metallic footsteps echoed. One training construct emerged from the corridor, then another, then a third. Unlike Zhao Kai's opponents, these carried shield units rather than offensive weapons, blocking units, designed to delay. Xiao Fan examined their spacing, not an attack formation, a containment formation. He lowered the beacon briefly and picked up a loose length of broken chain lying beside the corridor wall. The constructs advanced. He swung the chain around a protruding support column and pulled sharply. Loose debris collapsed across the narrow passage. The constructs immediately shifted to clearing the obstruction. Their programming prioritized restoring the designated route. While they worked, Xiao Fan crossed through the wider maintenance gap beside the damaged wall. No combat, minimal delay, resource efficient. Another scoring light appeared above his lane. Environmental utilization, excellent. The extraction platform came into view. Only one participant stood there already. Gu Qingshui. Empty-handed, she looked toward the white beacon. I see. You mapped the arena. I mapped the objectives. The extraction platform accepts only one beacon. Xiao Fan looked at the silver pedestal. 4 receiving slots. Red, blue, gold, white, blue. Gold, white. She followed his gaze. Correction. It accepts 4. Neither moved immediately. Both understood the implication. The participants had never been intended to compete for a single objective. They had been intended to discover compatibility between incomplete assignments. Gu Qingshui inclined her head very slightly. You first. Xiao Fan placed the white beacon into its matching slot. The pedestal illuminated. White. Stable. Accepted. No completion notice appeared. 1 slot of 4. The evaluation was larger than any individual objective. Above the arena, the silver-haired researcher quietly updated her report. Participant, Xiao Fan, continues prioritizing system understanding over immediate optimization. The black-coated observer watched the white light spreading across the extraction platform. And he keeps being correct. Before anyone could move again, the academy horn sounded once. Principal Han's calm voice echoed throughout the arena. Stage 2 complete. Proceed to the central platform. The 4 beacons dissolved into particles of light. The arena itself began changing once more. Stone walls retracted. Training constructs withdrew. The central floor expanded. Large barrier emitters emerged from beneath the arena surface. 4 became 8. 8 became 16. Emergency response architecture. Wyrong exhaled slowly. It's beginning. Li Zentian gave a single nod. The final evaluation. Principal Han's voice remained steady. Stage 3. Emergency response evaluation. The arena lights shifted from silver to amber. Warning runes illuminated across every barrier emitter. A low alarm echoed through the chamber. Unlike the previous stages, no explanation followed immediately. Instead, heavy gates around the arena opened. Standard Class 7 entered first. Chen Lai, Lin Xiaoyu, Luo Yun, Shang Hao, the broad-shouldered guardian, the short spear girl, the hooked blade boy. Then additional academy support staff guiding portable recovery equipment. A transparent projection expanded above the field. Emergency scenario. Recovery beacon failure risk. Barrier stability declining. Multiple threat vectors. Protect the recovery beacon until emergency extraction completes. The silver pillar at the center of the arena slowly emerged from beneath the floor. Its protective barrier flickered. Principal Han spoke again. Individual capability is no longer the focus. Respond. No further instructions appeared. For the first time since entering the evaluation arena, Xiao Fan looked immediately toward his classmates. Everyone instinctively moved. Too instinctively. Chen Lai secured the eastern approach. The broad-shouldered guardian advanced toward the northern lane. The hooked blade boy disappeared toward elevated terrain. The short spear girl moved to intercept the closest construct. Lin Xiaoyu rushed toward the beacon itself. Each decision was reasonable. Each decision addressed a real threat. Each decision pursued a different priority. The recovery beacon continued flickering. Heart resonance remained silent. Xiao Fan's eyes swept across the battlefield. The emergency constructs emerged in coordinated waves. Some targeted the beacon. Some targeted supply relays. Some attempted to isolate defenders. The simulation was not asking whether they could fight. It was asking whether they could think together. Another warning sounded. Barrier integrity, 82%. Chen Lai forced back one construct before shouting across the arena. Left side clear. The Guardian answered from the opposite direction. North secured. The information was accurate. It was also fragmented. Everyone was winning individual battles. The objective was still deteriorating. Heart resonance remained inactive. Xiao Fan stopped moving. The battlefield unfolded before him. Everyone he trusted. Everyone supporting the same evaluation. Yet their intentions diverged. Protect, attack, delay, scout, repair, support. Each person believed they were helping. No one was pursuing exactly the same priority. Then he understood. The beacon isn't the objective. Lin Xiaoyu looked toward him. What? The beacon is the anchor. Another warning. Barrier integrity. 76%. Xiao Fan raised his voice. Forget the constructs. Every member of Standard Class 7 turned instinctively. Protect anchor stability. No unnecessary pursuit. No isolated engagements. Everything exists to keep the anchor stable. Rotate it. Around the beacon. One priority. For a single heartbeat, no one moved. Then Chen Lai answered first. Understood. He abandoned pursuit and returned immediately toward the beacon. The Guardian withdrew without hesitation. The hooked blade boy left an exposed flank rather than finishing an opponent. The short spear girl redirected intercept routes. Lin Xiaoyu adjusted the support arrays instead of attacking. No one questioned the order. No one interpreted it differently. Their intentions aligned. Heart resonance awakened. Warmth spread through Xiao Fan's chest. Not violently. Not overwhelmingly. Calm. Clear. The familiar translucent panel appeared. Heart resonance aligned support detected. Shared objective confirmed. Functional readiness perception available. The battlefield changed. Not physically. Perceptually. Chen Lai's next movement became obvious before he made it. The Guardian's shield angle. Lin Xiaoyu's repositioning. The hooked blade boy's retreat path. The short spear girl's interception timing. Each teammate remained an individual. Yet their readiness fit together like pieces of a completed structure. Xiao Fan reacted instantly. Guardian. Half step left. The shield shifted. A charging construct struck harmlessly against reinforced defense. Chen Lai, rotate clockwise. He moved before the opening closed. Hooked blade, upper relay. The scout vanished. Lin Xiaoyu. Stabilize a support node 3. I have it. Short spear, delay only. Don't chase. The formation flowed naturally. No one wasted movement. No one duplicated effort. Barrier integrity, 73. 76. 81. The recovery beacon stabilized. Above the arena, silence filled the observation room. The silver-haired researcher stared at the monitoring display. It activated. Wei Rong leaned closer. Condition. Sincere, aligned support. Shared objective. Sustained operational pressure. Lai Zentian watched the synchronized movement below. No enhancement to strength. No increase to speed. No amplification to mana. Only battlefield readiness. The black-coated observer nodded once. And that is precisely why it matters. The final assault wave emerged. Twice the previous number of constructs. The Guardian planted his shield. Chen Lai held the rotating defense. Lin Xiaoyu maintained the recovery arrays. The hooked blade boy redirected approaching units. The short spear girl disrupted every breakthrough attempt. Xiao Fan stood at the center. Not fighting the hardest. Not moving the fastest. Coordinating. Every instruction arrived a heartbeat before it became necessary. The emergency timer reached 0. A clear academy tone echoed through the chamber. Emergency simulation complete. Recovery beacon status, protected. Barrier integrity, 92%. Evaluation complete. The constructs froze simultaneously. The arena lights returned to white. Heart resonance faded. The translucent panel disappeared. Xiao Fan exhaled slowly. His teammates looked toward him almost at the same time. No one spoke. They did not need to. They all knew the evaluation had changed something. Principal Han rose from his seat. The emergency response evaluation has concluded. The Academy confirms that Xiao Fan's talent possesses verified practical value. A quiet murmur spread through the observation gallery. The talent's operational. Classification remains pending. It demonstrates reliable application only under specific aligned support conditions. Further observation will continue. Wei Rong descended from the observation platform and stopped before Xiao Fan. You want it? Certainty. Xiao Fan nodded. I received a condition instead. Wei Rong allowed himself a faint smile. Conditions are how real talents are understood. Don't chase activation. Understand why it appears. I will. Standard Class 7 gathered cat. Around him. Zhang Hao grinned broadly. So we actually did it. We proved something. Chen Lei folded his arms. We proved everyone contributed. Lin Xiaoyu smiled at Xiao Fan. You gave us one objective. We gave it back to you. The broad-shouldered Guardian. The broad-shouldered Guardian. Laughed. I still prefer hitting things. You protected them first, Luo Yun replied. That's enough. Across the arena, Zhao Kai met Xiao Fan's eyes. For several seconds neither spoke. Then Zhao Kai gave a small nod. Not admiration, not friendship. Recognition. A rival acknowledging another whose strength lay on a different battlefield. Gu Qingshui looked between them before speaking quietly. Your talent doesn't make you stronger. No. It makes everyone stronger together. Xiao Fan considered her words. It makes us work as we intended. She accepted the correction. Tang Ruo stretched lazily. I dislike mysterious talents. You'll spend years trying to explain this one. The silver-haired researcher closed her report. Recommendation. Heart resonance. Practical value confirmed. Classification pending. Continue long-term observation. The black-coated observer signed beneath the recommendation. Approved. As Standard Class 7 left the sealed arena together, no cheering followed them. None was necessary. Their victory had not changed the Academy's hierarchy. Elite students remained stronger. The rankings remained intact. But something fundamental had shifted. Standard Class 7 had proven that disciplined preparation, trust and coordinated judgment could overcome disadvantages that raw strength alone could not. Xiao Fan walked beside his classmates through the evening light. The mystery of heart resonance remained unsolved. Its future remained uncertain, but for the first time since awakening it, he knew one truth with complete certainty. Its value did not come from standing above others. It came from allowing everyone to stand together.